Filia walks through the cobbled streets of Gertonia, her presence drawing the eyes of all who pass. The air buzzes with murmurs of her return. Rumors had spread of her journey to the northwest, where she single-handedly vanquished the monstrous threats lurking there. Now that she has returned, the kingdom stirs with admiration, whispering stories of her legendary feats, how she saved countless towns. She seems flawless, capable of anything. Yet despite her perfection, there is one thing she lacks: a smile. A young boy greets her as she passes, his voice shaking with nervousness. She turns her head slightly, responding to his greeting, but her face remains unreadable, her expression devoid of warmth. She does not smile, nor does she exude the kindness that saints are expected to embody. Elsewhere in the bustling marketplace, Oswald, a traveler unfamiliar with the kingdom, finds himself captivated by the sight of Filia. He asks the vendor about her, and the vendor instantly knows he must be new to Gertonia. He begins explaining the significance of what Oswald has just witnessed. Gertonia, he says, is blessed with not one but two saints. The other Saint Mia is a beloved figure, radiant, warm, and adored by all. Her kindness and ever-present smile are a beacon of hope, winning the hearts of the people effortlessly. But the woman Oswald had just seen was Mia's sister, Saint Filia, a figure of unmatched greatness. Unlike Mia, Filia is not beloved for her charm, but for her sheer power. Her abilities surpass all expectations, and as a result, people seek her out for tasks once deemed impossible. She secures trade routes, summons rain for crops, and even develops advanced medicines. There isn't a challenge she cannot overcome, and yet despite her greatness, she's not universally adored. Some resent her. When Filia returns home, she is met not with praise, but with cold reproach. Her mother does not acknowledge her efforts. Instead, she scolds her for wasting time fulfilling the endless requests of the people. Her achievements are dismissed as arrogance, as an unnecessary display of superiority. Compared to Mia, who completed her saint training with ease and whose warmth naturally draws people in, Filia is deemed lacking. To her mother, she is nothing more than a failure who took too long to become a saint, a woman who possesses everything but the one thing that truly matters: a smile. Harsh words rain down upon her, yet Filia does not flinch. Her face remains neutral, as though the scolding does not affect her. She offers no defense for herself, only mentioning a brief apology to her mother. She simply stands motionless even as the reprimand continues. When her mother finally walks away, the house falls into silence. Filia is left alone with her thoughts. She reflects on the weight of her existence, on how she had been taught from a young age that a saint's duty was to serve and protect. She had done exactly that, had given her everything to the people of Gertonia, yet she remained an outcast in their eyes. No matter how much she gave, there was one thing that set her apart. That evening, rain pours relentlessly over Gertonia. Filia stands before a glass pane, gazing at her own reflection. She tries to understand. She recalls her childhood, a time when she first began to understand that she was different. Even then, she had never known how to smile. Perhaps that was why her parents kept their distance. She remembers watching Mia, basking in the love of those around her, effortlessly embraced by the warmth of others. Filia had realized from a young age that she would have to work endlessly just to be noticed. If she could not smile, she had to make herself indispensable in other ways. Elsewhere, Oswald continues his search for answers about Filia. Holding a booklet in his hand, he learns that she was born into a lineage of saints, that she was sent to the church at the age of 5, where she underwent years of grueling training, learning history, etiquette, magic, and martial arts. Determined to compensate for her inability to smile, Filia dedicated herself to excelling in every way possible. Her parents, seeing her weakness, had placed her in rigorous saint training. Her mentor had pushed her to her limits, molding her into the perfect saint, one who could do everything, one who never faltered. She had endured hardships beyond measure and mastered skills beyond comprehension, and yet, no matter how much she tried, there was one thing she could never do: she could not smile. Oswald continues his research about Filia and discovers more about her life. She became a saint at just 16. Since then, she has been known as the greatest of all time. Now at 19, she has gained the king's recognition and is engaged to Prince Julius, the second prince of Gertonia. As Oswald takes in this information, his reading is interrupted by a man dressed as a knight. The knight tells him that his highness has summoned him. Meanwhile, Filia walks through the streets of Gertonia, lost in thought. When she got engaged to Prince Julius, she believed it would finally earn her the recognition she had always worked for. She thought her efforts would be valued at last. Yet, as she walks, she sees a boy laughing with pure joy as his father returns home. She can't help but stare. When she arrives home, she is greeted by her younger sister, Mia, who smiles at her from behind an open book. Though their home has never felt truly welcoming, Mia's kindness makes it easier to return. As Mia talks excitedly, she notices that Filia is holding a small box. Curious, she reaches for it. Filia does not stop her, and Mia opens it to find a delicate rose-shaped hairpin inside. She stares at it in surprise. Filia has never shown interest in clothing, art, music, or anything related to trends, and yet she had bought this for her. The thought fills Mia with joy. Eager to do something in return, Mia offers to pick out an outfit for Filia's upcoming meeting with Prince Julius. Filia hesitates but doesn't refuse. Julius had indeed asked to see her tomorrow. When Mia playfully asks if it is a date, Filia doesn't know how to answer. But since Mia can't argue with the prince, they promise each other that they would go shopping together on Filia's next day off. As Filia watches Mia's excitement, she is reminded of how different they are. Mia is full of warmth and charm, always surrounded by people who adore her. In the royal palace, Prince Julius talks with his companions, speaking about Filia with disgust. He calls her wretched and insufferable, mocking the title of the greatest of all time. The others laugh, comparing her to the legendary saints before her, saying her efforts are nothing compared to theirs. Despite all the good she has done for Gertonia, she has earned more resentment than admiration. To Julius, she's not a woman. She is a machine, an untouchable being that no one could ever love. And he has decided that Gertonia does not need two saints. Plans are already in motion. Soon, they will act. The next day, Mia walks through the busy streets of Gertonia, wearing her new rose hairpin with pride. People greet her with warm smiles, eager to talk to her. A woman asks if today is her day off, and once Mia confirms, more people gather around. A child offers her a handful of flowers, and she happily accepts. When someone asks about her hairpin, she smiles brightly, saying the person she admires the most gave it to her. At that moment, she wonders if Filia has already reached the castle. Inside the grand halls of the palace, Filia walks with steady steps. She has been called urgently, but does not know why. She glances out a nearby window and notices the family carriage parked outside. Her father is here as well. When she enters the prince's chamber, Julius greets her with an unusual smile. She has never seen him in such a good mood before. He begins by mentioning her recent actions, how she defeated the werewolves in the northwest. But instead of praising her, he quickly turns to complaints. His soldiers say she overstepped her role, taking their jobs and even daring to suggest new battle formations. Julius says it is not a woman's place to do such things. Filia listens in silence, sensing that something is off. Julius seems far too pleased, his grin widening as he rises from his seat. Then, without hesitation, he delivers the news. Their engagement is over. Her face remains calm, but her fingers tighten around the fabric of her dress as she steadily asks why. Julius does not falter. He has chosen to marry Mia instead. For a moment, her mind goes blank. He continues, amused. Filia, he says, is too perfect, too inhuman. A saint should be gentle, graceful, and beloved. She is none of those things. Mia, on the other hand, is everything a queen should be, beautiful, warm, and adored by all. When compared to her, Filia will always fall short. Filia remains silent for a long moment before finally asking if Mia knows about this. Julius chuckles before admitting she doesn't, not yet, but he confidently claims that Mia has always sought his attention. Before Filia can process his words, the doors swing open and her parents step inside. They do not object to the prince's decision. Instead, they urge Filia to accept it immediately. They see this as an opportunity. Mia will be a wonderful queen. Filia would do anything for Mia's happiness. But before she can even begin to process this news, Julius delivers another blow. She's leaving Gertonia. The realization grips her as her breath catches. Julius has sold her to Parnacorda. Her mind races, struggling to make sense of it. The neighboring kingdom recently lost their saint and is desperate for a new one. They've offered a fortune, an amount equal to Gertonia's entire annual budget, to take Filia in exchange. It is a perfect deal, Julius explains. It makes him look noble, a prince willing to sacrifice his betrothed for the good of the kingdom. Her family benefits as well. They will receive 30% of the money. Her parents are overjoyed, and in Prince Julius's words, Mia will be happy too. It seems that everyone stands to gain from this decision, everyone except Filia. As she sinks into thought, her parents' laughter cuts through the silence. There is no pity in their voices, only mockery. They joke about how surprising it is that a kingdom would pay so much for someone like Filia. For the first time, someone finds value in her, which is quite strange. Not only will this deal bring wealth to her parents, but it will also earn them recognition among high society for sacrificing their daughter to protect another nation. Their words bring her back to all the efforts she made, every task she completed, every life she saved, done in hopes of winning their approval. Yet in the end, they discard her so easily, as if she were never truly their daughter. Her thoughts darken, swallowing any space left for happiness. Meanwhile, unaware of everything, Maya returns home with her usual grace and poise. When Filia arrives, she finds her suitcase already placed outside the gates, as if her presence is no longer welcome. She picks it up, ready to leave, but pauses and turns back. A part of her wonders what she could have done differently, how she might have changed things. But the truth is, she may never know. That night, she leaves the kingdom in a carriage, unable to fix anything now that it's too late. Back in the castle, Prince Julius is already imagining how to spend the large sum Parnacorda paid for Filia. With the king's health in steep decline and the first prince, Ferdinand, having withdrawn in fear of his brother's power, Julius' coronation feels inevitable. Soon, he will rule over Gertonia. In his mind, everything is coming together. He will have the throne, the admiration of the court, and Mia by his side. Meanwhile, Filia travels day and night across harsh terrain, mountains, rivers, and winding roads. The long, grueling journey wears her down, and she finds herself drifting in and out of sleep. With nothing else to do, her mind wanders. She wonders what kind of place Parnacorda is. They paid such a high price for her. Surely they expect her to be worth it. She assumes they'll work her to the bone, and perhaps that's only fair. But no matter where she ends up, her duty as a saint remains unchanged. That is the one constant. Her thoughts are interrupted when the carriage suddenly comes to a stop. The coachman informs her they've reached the furthest point they can take her. She'll have to continue from the border in another carriage. Carrying her suitcase, she walks alone toward the tunnel, marking the boundary between nations. At the far end, she spots figures in the distance and wonders if it's normal for people to be around at that point in town. To her surprise, a group of Megs awaits her, lined up formally to welcome her to Parnacorda. Their leader steps forward, Oswald. He offers his hand with a warm smile, something Filia had never experienced in Gertonia. Soon enough, Filia rides the carriage prepared by Prince Oswald of Parnacorda. She thinks about how people are treating her, believing it's only natural. They paid a lot for her, so of course they want to take good care of their investment. But when she arrives at the castle, she is surprised to see a welcome party prepared for her. The venue is adorned with decorations, and long tables are filled with elaborate, luxurious food. A group of nobles gathers to greet her, led by the head of the church. He expresses how glad they are to have her in Parnacorda, and the others echo the sentiment. Filia, not used to being treated like this, immediately asks what her duties for the day are. To her surprise, she is told that her only task for the day is to enjoy the welcome celebration. Members of the church then present her with a variety of food, smiling warmly as they encourage her to eat. Their happiness startles her, but she thanks them in return. While eating, Filia reflects on how she used to be nothing more than a wallflower at gatherings like these. She eats her salad and is taken aback by how delicious it is. Then Prince Oswald approaches her, asking her about the food and comments on the vegetables. He mentions that he grew the vegetables himself despite the difficulty caused by the lack of rainfall this year. Filia assumes he's a farmer and prepares to offer her help, but before she can finish her sentence, another man calls out to him, addressing him as Prince Oswald. Only then does she realize she's been talking to the prince all along. The one who calls him is Jorn, head of the church who greeted her earlier. He's about to inform Prince Oswald that Prince Richard is looking for him. Jorn then introduces Prince Oswald as the second prince of Parnacorda. Prince Oswald greets her formally, and Jorn leaves to find Prince Richard so he can introduce him as well. Left alone, Prince Oswald tells Filia there is something he wants to say. She grips her skirt, nervous about what it might be. But instead of criticism, he bows his head and apologizes. He admits that buying a saint might be considered a disgraceful act and a disrespect to her dignity. But with the previous saint gone, their kingdom had no other choice. When Gertonia offered Filia, it felt like a divine blessing for them. So he promises to meet all her needs while she's in Parnacorda. He says he hopes she will someday come to love their country. Filia is stunned. She never expected a prince to say something like that. Love is a distant idea for her now. She doesn't even know what it means anymore. Her eyes begin to sting with tears. Prince Oswald notices this and worries he may have said too much. To ease the tension, he steers the conversation back to the vegetables. Filia mentions that she might be able to increase rainfall in a few days if she is given time. But as she says this, a memory flashes in her mind. Whenever she is helping other people, she often warns her not to overstep on other people's jobs, so she is taken back by her thoughts and wonders if she's doing it again. But the response she receives is far from criticism. Prince Oswald is overjoyed. His joy draws the attention of another figure, Prince Richard, the first prince of Parnacorda. Prince Richard greets Filia and praises her for her abilities. At that moment, standing between two princes who personally greet her and speak of her potential, the pressure sinks in. The weight of expectations settles heavily on her shoulders. That day, her role as the new saint of Parnacorda begins. Later in the afternoon, Filia rides through the kingdom again in her carriage. The streets are dim, and the people look tired. She listens to their conversations. They speak about the rising prices and the hardships brought by the return of monsters. Trade has grown more difficult. Many of them say that things were different when the previous saint was still alive. They recall how kind she was, how life was easier then. They speak of wanting a new saint, and some mention that one has just arrived, Saint Filia. But others comment that she seems unapproachable. The next morning, Filia wakes up in an enormous bedroom. Jorn had told her she would have a new home, but this is far beyond what she imagined. The space is double the size of her entire house back in Gertonia. She rises from her bed to get ready and finally allows the truth to sink in. She remembers what Prince Oswald said, that she should try to love their country. The thought feels overwhelming, but it also gives her a goal. If she is to live up to their expectations, she will have to work harder than ever. She gets out of bed and walks through the long hallways of the house. As she moves through, she meets two people, Leonardo and Lena, the butler and the maid. They are surprised to see her up so early and advise her to rest longer. But Filia is used to beginning her day early, so instead of following their advice, she asks them to prepare something for her. That day, Filia rides in her carriage, a large map open in her hands. Her eyes scan the kingdom of Parnacorda as a whole. Situated in the center of the continent and bordered by 5 other nations, the kingdom is lush with natural features like forests and mountains. But forests and mountains serve as natural nests for monsters. Her eyes study the map as she silently chooses her first destination. Before she can speak, they quickly explain that they've been assigned to attend to her needs and accompany her through all her duties. Lena still finds it surprising how early Filia wakes up, but Filia feels no such thing. She's just used to this rhythm. It's how she's always worked. Their reactions are filled with disbelief and concern. If this is how she operates on a daily basis, then they'll need to keep up. She tells them she's searching for monster nesting grounds, and based on the terrain they're going through, Leonardo easily guesses their target, the Detrahorn Mountains. When they arrive at the base of the mountains, the sky is an ominous gray and the air feels unnaturally heavy. A suffocating pressure settles over them, making it hard to breathe. Filia recognizes the signs immediately. There's a strong monster presence in the area. She suggests they stay back, but both draw weapons and step forward without hesitation. They come fully prepared to defend her while she works. Filia is surprised but assumes they've come to ensure she's doing her job properly. It's the first time someone's watched her perform her saintly duties, and it's slightly distracting her. As they walk deeper into the woods, Lena begins asking questions. She never had a chance to work alongside the previous saint and doesn't know what the process looks like. Leonardo, who once served under the former saint, explains the ritual to her. First, the saint must pray deeply, calling on divine power to create pillars of light. These pillars form the base of a protected barrier. Once in place, the barrier turns the area into sacred ground where monsters weaken and eventually vanish. The more pillars there are, the stronger the barrier becomes, but the process is grueling. Constructing even a single pillar can take an entire day. That's why they're here, to keep Filia safe while she works. But to their astonishment, Filia completes the first pillar so easily. Leonardo takes out his watch, seeing that she finished it in just 30 minutes. To her, it's nothing unusual. She casually mentions that she plans to create 7 more pillars in different areas, estimating that she'll finish them all past lunch. Lena stares at her, wide-eyed, barely able to believe what she's hearing. Even Leonardo is taken aback. For him, the memory of how difficult it had been for the previous saint to raise even a single pillar is still fresh. Watching Filia move from one site to another with tireless focus, he realizes just how extraordinary she is. Prince Oswald did the right thing. She's far beyond what anyone expected. By the time Filia finishes erecting the last pillar, the transformation is staggering. The oppressive air is gone, replaced by warm light and gentle wind. Leonard praises her for the incredible work and suggests they return home to rest. But Filia refuses. She wants to study the local ecosystem and the vegetation, believing the information might be useful for future research. Afterward, she plans to visit the Western territories to set up more barriers. Lena and Leonardo glance at each other, defeated but resigned. They have no choice but to follow her relentless pace. When they finally return home that evening, Filia apologizes for keeping them out so late. They say it's fine and even commend her, though the truth is they're still in shock. Filia gave them no breaks. Even now, she's still talking about more tasks to do. Eventually, they speak up, telling her she needs to stop. She's working herself too hard, and if anything happens to her, it will reflect badly on them. Leonardo tells her bluntly she's accomplished 3 times what any saint in history could manage in a single day. She works nonstop even while in the carriage. Lena agrees, saying she's going beyond what a saint usually does. Filia listens, confused. She remembers her training, how she was taught to learn everything so she could protect her country. But when Prince Julius discovered she was developing a new medicine, he told her to step back from it. Leonardo then suggests she take a day off for tomorrow. Filia stares at him, puzzled, as if she's hearing the phrase for the first time. A saint taking a break feels irresponsible, even dangerous. Leonardo pushes back. Her health matters too. If she collapses, the nation will suffer even more. Filia remains silent for a moment. What they're saying goes against everything her mother ever told her. Still, she insists that the kingdom is in a critical state. At the very least, she must erect barriers in the eastern and southern regions tomorrow. As Lena and Leonardo leave Filia's quarters, they talk about her. Lena mentions how determined and earnest she is, yet also awkward and helpless in some ways. Even so, she notices that Filia seems to prefer working alone. With that, Leonard shares something Prince Oswald told him, that Filia actually traveled all the way to Parnacorda's borders by herself, without any escort or assistant. Lena is taken aback. To her, that's no way to treat a saint. Saints are responsible for their country's safety. They should be handled with care. She doesn't understand why Gertonia would allow that. Feeling even more protective, Lena decides she'll pamper Filia more from now on, hoping she'll learn to take better care of herself. The next morning, the streets are more abundant than usual. Sacks full of vegetables and fruits line up along the market roads, and people talk about what Filia has done. For the first time in a while, they can finally stock up. Rumors spread about how tirelessly she worked from dawn to dusk, and the people praise her for it. They're glad to have her as their saint. Prince Oswald hears all these praises as he walks through the city, and a smile forms on his lips. Meanwhile, back in Gertonia, Mia now serves as the kingdom's saint. She has always looked up to Filia, admiring her for her strength, her intelligence, and her kindness. Mia believed that as long as she followed her example, everything would turn out fine. But now that Filia is gone, Mia has to face the reality of working alone. Monsters continue to surge across the kingdom, and the usual hunting parties can't keep up. Prince Julius is furious. He's been sending out regular hunt parties, but they aren't making progress. With Filia gone, no one is left to drive the monsters away. She had handled everything before, and now the entire system is falling apart without her. Enraged, Prince Julius demands that their wealth be used to do whatever it takes to get the situation under control. The kingdom has grown noisier since Filia's departure. The people look to Mia, hoping she will settle everything, but even she feels lost. She finds it strange. Filia left to protect a neighboring country, yet said nothing to her beforehand. Mia remembers the night Filia disappeared. She had asked her father why. If a saint was needed, Mia could have gone. She's not even engaged yet, but her father tricked her. He told her it was Filia's choice. Now Mia thinks it all through. Filia is perfect, so there's no way she would leave without preparing Mia her handoff duties or at least saying goodbye. That means only one thing: either it was all too sudden, or she wasn't allowed to. She is mad about it. She thinks about who could have done it, who could have taken her sister away from her. Whoever it is, she swears she'll hold them responsible. Lena the maid is slaying monsters with ease, her movements swift and precise. Alongside her is Leonard the butler, who handles his own share of the battle. His form is graceful and lethal as hers. Filia stands apart from the two of them, silently jotting down information on a map in her hand. She recalls the tales of Parnacorda's chivalric order. Thinking about it, the order may have included their maids and butlers in martial training. Even so, she can't deny the impressive skill these two show. Once the last monster falls, Filia compliments their work, but both Lena and Leonard quickly downplay their efforts. The monsters were already weakened by the sanctuary Filia had created, and the rudimentary potion she provided only boosted their performance. Lena's curiosity is piqued when she notices the marks Filia has drawn on her map. She doesn't understand what the markings signify. Filia explains that she is recording the rise in monster outbreaks. Though they manage to eliminate them, the creatures return too quickly. Filia explains to them that there is a demon realm beneath the surface, a realm that houses the monsters. These creatures occasionally find their way to the surface, and as the demon realm's population grows, so too will the frequency of these invasions. Before the conversation can continue, Leonard announces that the carriage is ready, signaling it's time to head to the castle. But just before they depart, Lena reminds Filia that they have another destination in mind. Meanwhile, Prince Oswald strolls through the streets of Parnacorda, exchanging greetings with the townspeople. He mentions that he is out on a date, and curiosity bubbles among the crowd. When he reaches their meeting point, he's surprised to find Filia already there. She's dressed in a maroon gown, an outfit she rarely wears. Prince Oswald is instantly struck by her beauty, while Lena can't help but wear an amused expression from behind her. It is clear that Lena is an accomplice of Prince Oswald in orchestrating this date, though Filia, having been engaged before, doesn't really understand what a date entails. Unsure, she follows Lena's suggestion to tour Almberg with Prince Oswald as their guide. This kind of treatment is unfamiliar to Filia, and she finds herself unsure of how to respond. Their first stop is the merchant quarter, where the markets bustle with activity. Though it had been a target for monster attacks in the past, the area has since returned to normal, thanks in part to Filia's efforts. Prince Oswald expresses his gratitude, which leaves Filia puzzled. She doesn't see herself as deserving of such praise after all, she's simply doing her job. But despite her thoughts, she feels her heart race at his words, and Lena notices her reaction, clearly pleased. As they walk through the streets, a man from Gertonia spots Filia. He thanks her for helping him keep his trade going. His son is also with him. Filia remembers how kids in Gertonia are so afraid of her, so she's worried she may scare this one as well, but to her surprise, the child just thanks her with a bright smile. The unexpected kindness leaves her speechless, unsure of how to respond. In fact, the entire town seems to have a similar reaction. People thank Filia for her efforts, offering her gifts of fruit and vegetables as tokens of their gratitude. She's overwhelmed by their kindness, but before things can get too chaotic, Prince Oswald gently takes her hand, leading her away and apologizing to the crowd. Lena watches from behind, clearly amused. Their next destination is a quaint cafe surrounded by flowers and plants. Prince Oswald gestures toward the menu and tells Filia to order whatever she likes. Filia hesitates, unsure of what to choose. She's content with anything edible. Sensing her uncertainty, Prince Oswald suggests a few items and Filia follows his lead. The whole experience feels foreign to her. She's not accustomed to being treated this way and she's unsure how to act in such situations. Prince Oswald, however, eases her discomfort by striking up a conversation. He thanks her for her work and reminds her not to overexert herself. His concern, though well-meaning, causes Filia to become even more reserved. No matter how hard she tries, she can't bring herself to offer more than brief responses. There's nothing she can say about herself. Her past has left little room for such thoughts, and she struggles to articulate anything personal. One thing, however, stands out: Filia likes tea. She enjoys the calming aroma, the way it soothes her mind. She takes a sip of the tea, savoring the familiar warmth, and tells Prince Oswald she can't say more. She's unsure of how to explain herself. Prince Oswald asks where she'd like to go next, but Filia's mind is elsewhere. All she wants is access to the castle's restricted library. It's not much of a date, but the books call to her. She's determined to uncover more information about the monster outbreaks. There are patterns she can't explain, patterns that don't align with geography or the absence of the former saint. She recalls similar events in Gertonia's history books, and Parnacorda's records seem to match. Her hypothesis is growing clearer. The demon realm is slowly but surely inching closer to the surface. However, both the prince and Lena do not seem to understand this, so Filia shares a story from 400 years ago, when the demon realm had nearly broken through. Monsters ran rampant, and chaos reigned. Asmodeus, an archdemon, led the charge, slaughtering both humans and animals alike. But then a saint named Fianna Esfil, known as Archsaint Fianna, rose up to confront him. She created massive barriers to eliminate the monsters and sealed Asmodeus' invincible body, restoring peace to the land, and so history continues up until this very day. Because of the grave information Prince Oswald learns from Filia, a conference is swiftly called at the castle. All high-ranking officials attend. Standing on one side of the table, Filia explains the crisis. The the looming rise of monster invasions that could multiply 20-fold. While she maintains a composed exterior, inside, she's still surprised. Prince Oswald didn't just listen to her theory, he acted on it. In Gertonia, her ideas were dismissed outright. Prince Julius had always told her to know her place, no matter how much she only wanted to help. The weight of her words sinks in. The room descends into panic. If the monster count truly multiplies as she predicts, their current forces will be overwhelmed. The logical step would be to increase military presence, but their defense funds are thin for the year. Filia braces for doubt, but Prince Oswald breaks the silence. He proposes tripling the military budget, even offering to speak to both his father and brother about it. His trust in her quiets the room. There's a moment of hesitation, then murmurs of agreement. No one voices an objection. Filia can't seem to believe the amount of confidence Prince Oswald has in her, so she wants to help him in return. With the help of castle officials, she reviews her maps and drafts defensive strategies. But even after hours of planning, their available forces still fall short. There's not enough time nor enough reach to cover their entire territory. She hesitates, but offers another solution, which is to build a great purification barrier. It's an ancient and powerful ritual, one strong enough to shield the entire kingdom. Jorn, one of the heads of the church, notes the difficulty this ritual holds. But Filia can do it. The only drawback is that she must remain at the center of the formation, acting as its core. This means staying in the capital and not being able to do other saintly duties she's been doing so far. She expects hesitation from the prince, perhaps even disappointment. But to her surprise, he welcomes the plan. He assures her that she's already doing more than enough, and that keeping her safe in the capital is a better outcome. Later, outside the castle, Filia stands quietly beneath the open sky as if lost in deep thought when Prince Oswald approaches, and she admits she misses her younger sister. Mia doesn't know any ancient rituals like her, so she wouldn't be able to cast such a ritual if the need ever arose. Filia fears for her safety. She's unsure how the prince will take this sentiment, but he simply nods. Of course she worries, she's a sister. That's only natural. To ease her mind, he arranges for a letter to be sent to Mia in Gertonia. So Filia writes a letter for her sister in the castle library to be sent to Gertonia with the prince's help. Back in Gertonia, Mia is still overwhelmed with anger and grief. Her sister's sudden departure still haunts her. No one gives her a straight answer. Her parents repeat the same line, that it was Filia's will. But Mia doesn't believe it. If that's true, she needs to hear it from Prince Julius himself. But when she arrives at his chambers, she doesn't find answers. Instead, she finds a grand bouquet of red roses by the door and Prince Julius kneeling with a proposal. He asks for her hand in marriage. Mia stares in disbelief. Filia left only days ago, and now he's kneeling before her. Her stomach turns. The realization hits her like a cold wave. Maybe the reason their parents didn't mourn Filia's departure is because they'd planned all of it all this time. But Mia keeps her reaction hidden. She masks her fury behind a sweet smile and answers the prince by saying she needs time to think. Prince Julius, taken by her charm, agrees without question. Mia pretends to go along, but inside, her determination sharpens. She plans to win his trust and find out the truth, why her sister was sent away, what really happened, and who was behind it. She leaves smiling, hiding the disgust she feels. For her sister, she'll endure it all. That day, Mia begins her own quiet but determined investigation about Filia's sudden departure. She notices strange things around the house, a signed contract for the construction of a new mansion, brand new jewelry hidden among their mother's old boxes. Around Prince Julius, Mia continues to smile sweetly, listening quietly even as he insults Filia. All the while, she carries out her saintly duties, but even those feel hollow as monster sightings grow more frequent. Back at home, her parents grow anxious about Mia's delayed decision. They fear the prince might change his mind if she doesn't accept his proposal soon. Her father, pacing before the furnace, pulls out a letter, one sent by Filia, addressed to Mia, and without hesitation, tosses it into the fire. The flames eat away at Filia's words, never having to arrive in Mia's hands. Unaware of the letter's destruction, Mia continues her plan. She walks to his quarters but pauses when she hears voices beyond the door. Two men are talking about his father. They mention how he got rid of his burden, profited from it, and even gained favor among influential circles. As the conversation unfolds, Mia's heart sinks. They speak of Filia, how she was sold off by her own parents and fiancé. Every question Mia once had about her sister's departure is answered in that moment. The men continue, remarking how sad it is that Filia was despised by her own family. Mia's vision darkens, her fists clench. She collapses to the floor, consumed by the weight of truth. Her mind spirals for all the time Filia was treated badly by their parents. She tried to ignore it, to pretend it wasn't so bad. But now she sees the full extent of the darkness her sister endured. Guilt swells in her chest, and through broken whispers, she apologizes to Filia, but it's too late for apologies. The next day, Prince Julius meets Mia to discuss her answer to his proposal. But before giving her answer, Mia calmly asks about her sister one last time. Julius sighs in annoyance and launches into his usual complaints, calling Filia the burden, unworthy of her title, and comparing her to Mia. He laughs, brushing off her importance, and praises Mia instead, her beauty, her obedience, her charm. Mia clenches her skirt, hiding her rage behind her usual charming smile. Each word from the prince cuts deeper, but she stays silent. And then once he finishes, Mia gives her reply with that same practiced smile. She says she accepts his proposal. Prince Julius stands up out of joy, but the storm is only beginning. Mia, fueled by grief and fury, vows to make him pay. She'll win his full trust, make him fall harder than ever, and when the time is right, she'll betray him. That will be her revenge. That will be justice for her sister. Mia sits alone in her quarters, the candlelight flickering beside her as she writes a letter addressed to Filia. She pleads for help, citing the rise in monster sightings and the danger now looming over the kingdom. She mentions the prince as well, but as she dwells on her feelings, her words drift into personal musings. Mia wonders why Filia hasn't sent her a single letter yet. If Filia noticed the abnormalities across the land, wouldn't she have offered guidance already? A silent hope stirs in her that the reason isn't because Filia herself is in trouble. In Parnacorta, the capital is alive with anticipation. Citizens gather around the palace's courts, where Filia is set to perform the ancient protection ritual. The king decides it is the perfect moment to introduce the new saint to the people. Prince Oswald feels the introduction is unnecessary, given Filia's rapid rise in popularity through her consistent efforts and divine work. But Filia, composed and serene, shows no concern for formalities. Suddenly, Prince Retrode arrives, recognizing Filia's tireless work for the kingdom. He declares it the best decision he's ever made, even though he and Oswald had once fought over it. Filia remains silent, her focus already on the ritual ahead. Before she can leave, Prince Oswald tells her sincerely that he entrusts the kingdom to her care. Without a word, she moves toward her rightful position. The crowd watches her with a mix of concern and admiration. As she walks, she reflects on the kindness of the people of Parnacorta. Though it wasn't her choice to be here, she silently vows to protect the kingdom and its people. In that moment, she realizes that despite the circumstances, she wants to stay and serve as their saint. Filia kneels down, her hands pressed together in earnest prayer, seeking protection for the kingdom. A soft glow envelops her, gradually intensifying until she radiates with divine light, almost like a goddess. The people watch in awe as shards of light shimmer around her, casting a mesmerizing glow. Her prayer deepens, and the pillars surrounding the kingdom pulse with power. From the ground, a translucent barrier rises, encircling Parnacorta, shielding the kingdom from any evil that may approach. The people are stunned into silence, unable to believe their eyes. The kingdom itself is enveloped by an impenetrable force. Filia continues her prayer until the great purification circle activates and an ancient symbol appears in the sky. Filia slowly rises, her breath shallow but steady. She turns toward the people, her demeanor calm as if nothing extraordinary has just transpired. The ritual is complete. Suddenly, a demonic entity appears in Filia's mind, its voice dark and sinister. It tells her it has finally found her. Before she can gather her thoughts, the people begin to surround her, praising her and clapping in admiration for the ritual's success. The entire kingdom is in awe of her actions. Later that day, Lena strolls through the streets, soaking in the peace that Filia has brought to Parnacorta. As she walks, the people approach her, showering her with gifts: vegetables, fruits, eggs, pastries, knitted scarves, cosmetics, and even flowers. Each item is given with a heartfelt message. It is for Filia. The kingdom's people are deeply grateful for everything she has done, and they show their appreciation in the most sincere way possible. Arriving at Filia's home, Lena is tired from her walk, but is surprised to see Filia busy with work once again. Even though she's relieved from her saintly duties, Filia hasn't found anything else to occupy her time. Lena urges her to take a rest, but Filia simply doesn't know how. She has no hobbies, nothing she can do to fill the void. Lena suggests walking, but Lena herself knows it would only cause a commotion, with people rushing over to see her. Filia also admits she knows nothing about gardening or fishing, leaving her with no options. After a pause, Lena has an idea. Filia enjoys reading, so Lena suggests she try it more often. When Lena mentions romance novels, Filia looks confused. Filia expresses indifference toward romance, not because she doesn't want it, but because she's never had the opportunity to explore it. Her mind briefly drifts to Prince Oswald, but she quickly pushes the thought away. Suddenly, the door opens and Prince Oswald enters, escorted by Leonardo. Lena greets him warmly, and he expresses his desire to speak with Filia. They decide to go somewhere quiet for tea and desserts. Before getting to the real reason for his visit, Oswald feels the need to clarify something about what his brother mentioned earlier. He knows Filia may not want to dwell on it, but he insists on explaining himself. Oswald tells her that it's not that he didn't want her in Parnacorta, it's the manner in which she was brought here that troubled him. Buying a saint from another kingdom felt wrong to him, as if she were being treated like a commodity. He admits that both he and his brother lost their temper over it, but he wants her to know that he is genuinely glad she came to their kingdom. His feelings toward her presence are sincere. Before they can continue, Leonardo interrupts, reminding Oswald of the real reason for his visit. Oswald then asks Filia if she would consider becoming a tutor for someone in need. At dinner, Filia brings up the tutoring offer, unsure if she's suited for the role. Lena encourages her, saying she'd be perfect for it. Though the saint-to-be is younger, Lena thinks it would be good for Filia to have company with her saintly duties. Hearing this, Filia can't help but think of her sister, Mia. She still hasn't received a reply to the letter she sent. Leonard, noticing her concern, promises to check if the messenger delivered it properly to Gertonia. Filia returns to her meal and comments on how delicious it is. Lena and Leonard are visibly pleased by the compliment. When Filia first arrived in Parnacorta, she was often silent and reserved. But now that she's starting to speak her thoughts more openly, both of them notice the change. Leonardo, who has been preparing her meals lately, feels particularly proud to hear her praise. However, Leonardo doesn't claim all the credit. Everything on Filia's table, the dishes, the pastries, even the flowers, has been sent by the people of Parnacorta, who admire her deeply. As she quietly eats, Filia reflects on everything that has happened since her arrival. She has experienced things she never knew in Gertonia. For that, she is truly grateful to the people and to Lena and Leonard, who have been by her side through it all. Meanwhile, in Gertonia, Mia dines with Prince Julius at a feast-like dinner. He smiles and promises her meals like this every day after they marry. Mia nods, wearing a polite smile, though deep inside, her real feelings are hidden. That same night, Lena bursts into Filia's room with exciting news. Mia has written back. Filia takes the letter with eager hands, but as her eyes scan the page, her expression quickly shifts. Mia writes that she hasn't received any messages from Filia, which confirms that the letter she sent never reached her sister. This is puzzling, as the Parnacorta messenger had sworn he delivered it to their home in Gertonia. Filia immediately suspects that her parents may have destroyed the letter before it reached Mia. They are determined to cut off any contact between her and Mia. Seeing her disheartened, Lena and Leonard quickly propose a solution. They introduce Filia to someone she hadn't noticed before, Himari, a quiet figure who steps out from above her ceiling. To Filia's surprise, Himari is one of her personal guards assigned to protect her in secret. She's been closed all along, hidden behind trees during her saintly duties, blending into the crowd during the welcome party. Filia never saw her, but now it all makes sense. Himari is a ninja trained to remain unseen. With Himari's help, Lena believes they can get a letter to Mia safely this time. Filia, though she has never met a ninja before, knows enough about them from her studies. Leonard voices her concerns to Himari, who listens calmly. To reach Gertonia, Himari must pass through dangerous terrain infested with monsters. Still, she reassures Filia that she is fully equipped and trained by the kingdom to serve and protect her. She is willing to risk her life if necessary for the sake of the saint. Moved by her resolve, Filia agrees to entrust Himari with a letter from Mia, on one condition. If danger arises along the way, Himari must prioritize her own safety and retreat. However, if it becomes possible to reach Mia safely, she must deliver the letter and ensure her sister's protection at all costs. So Himari kneels down, accepting Filia's request wholeheartedly. In Gertonia, Mia stands deep in the woods, raising the sacred pillars needed to form a barrier around the kingdom. Behind her, soldiers applaud, impressed by her speed and dedication as a saint. Some even whisper comparisons to Filia, claiming Mia is better. But Mia knows the truth and finds their words almost laughable. While it's true she can summon pillars faster than her sister, that is the only edge she has. Her barriers are far weaker, fragile even compared to Filia's powerful and enduring shields. A strong monster horde could easily break through hers unless she layers multiple barriers to reinforce the defense. This method, though effective, takes much longer and demands more energy. In the middle of her thoughts, Mia suddenly encounters a large swarm of monsters blocking her path. The soldiers behind her shout in panic, but that's all they manage to do. Paralyzed by fear, none of them move to help. Mia steps forward alone, casting a powerful spell that sends a wave of energy through the advancing horde of monsters. Yet despite her effort, more monsters rush forward, far more than she anticipated. There is clearly something wrong going on. Without hesitation, she casts the same spell again, pouring more energy into it. Breathing heavily, Mia turns around only to find the soldiers gone. They had fled while she fought, leaving her to face the threat alone. It's as if Mia is supposed to be the one to guard them. Overwhelmed by exhaustion, Mia collapses, nearly hitting the ground, until someone catches her. It's Himari, disguised as a man beneath a hooded cape. She comments on Mia's fatigue and gently hands her a handkerchief. As Mia accepts it, something slips out, a folded letter tucked beneath the cloth. Surprised, Mia quickly asks about her sister. She explains that the people of Parnacorta deeply appreciate Filia's efforts, offering her all the support she needs. Knowing her sister is finally in a place where she's cared for and valued brings her an unexpected sense of relief. Himari prepares to leave, but Mia stops her, inviting her to come by so they can talk more about her sister and the letter. Himari nods in understanding before vanishing into the forest. That night, Mia, already in her nightgown inside her room, suddenly sees a figure descend smoothly from the ceiling. It's Himari. Startled at first, Mia quickly realizes it's her. Himari explains she used the ceiling to avoid alerting the guards and successfully slipped in without being seen. Her earlier disguise as a man was also necessary to remain undetected in the field. Mia has already read the letter several times before Himari arrives. In it, Filia shares what she's been doing in Parnacorta over the past few days. Mia feels a pang of envy, wishing she had been there to witness her sister perform the ancient ritual. Himari quietly confirms it was a magnificent sight. Still, despite her admiration for Filia, Mia begins to feel a weight pressing on her. She isn't sure she can perform it with the same strength and grace her sister did. With Prince Julius now in charge, his narcissism and self-centered decisions make Mia hesitant to take any bold action. As Mia shares her concerns, Himari recalls Filia's instructions to keep her sister safe no matter what. With quiet determination, she offers a solution. If Mia truly wishes to escape, Himari can take her to Parnacorta easily. Mia hesitates. The thought of seeing her sister again stirs something inside her. After all, there's no reason for her to stay. The kingdom once betrayed Filia, casting her into exile. A carriage comes to a stop at the castle entrance. A red-haired young girl steps down with a bright smile on her face. She is Grace Maculus, the Saint of Bolmern. Filia stands ready to receive her, offering a formal yet warm greeting to welcome her into the kingdom. As soon as Grace sees Filia, she lets out a loud, high-pitched scream of excitement. Her joy is uncontainable. She rushes forward, introducing herself with overflowing energy and explaining how much she admires Filia. Several days earlier, Prince Oswald approached Filia with a request. He asked her to become a tutor. Though unsure how to teach anyone, Filia listened as he explained that the Matalus family from Bolmern had a long history of producing saints. In fact, the Elprince family of Parnacorta, known for producing saints as well, was originally a branch of the Matilas line. Because of their geographic and ancestral ties, Bolmer requested that their fourth daughter, Grace, be trained in purification magic by Filia. Though hesitant, Filia accepted, knowing the importance of the task. Grace can barely contain her excitement, about to leap toward Filia, but her butler, Arnold, quickly steps forward and formally introduces her, even saying how big of a fan she is of St. Filia. Grace's energy is so overwhelming that Filia finds herself briefly stunned. Still, she smiles, quietly thinking that her once quiet mansion is bound to feel livelier now with Grace around. Later, in the calm of her mansion, Filia sits quietly sipping tea when Leonard approaches. He asks if she is truly certain about her decision to teach purification magic to someone from another kingdom. Filia agrees without hesitation. It isn't a forbidden art, she explains. Even so, she admits the magic is difficult. It requires mastery of ancient rituals, which not everyone can perform. While talent isn't necessary, the practice demands deep knowledge and sharp perception. When the former goes, one must learn the ancient language. This makes Filia think of her sister. Mia cannot perform the purification magic because she lacks knowledge of the required tongue. If only Filia could teach her that as well. The Matalus family, on the other hand, appears to have integrated the use of the ancient language into their training. This gives Grace an advantage. If she has studied it enough, then learning the purification magic may come more naturally to her. The next morning after Grace's arrival, Filia immediately begins teaching her everything she must know, and Grace is more than excited to learn. There are two essential things Grace must possess for the purification ritual: knowledge and perception. Since she has already studied ancient languages, her next focus is mastering perception. They begin by training to sense the natural magic power required for the ritual, known as mana. When Grace admits she doesn't quite understand what mana is, Filia explains every detail of it along with a demonstration. She extends her hand, a magical diamond-like magical object that lights appears in her palm. This, she explains, is called Odd. In contrast, mana is the magic that flows not from one's self, but from the natural world itself. Filia explains that the magical purification circle, just like many ancient rituals, is too large and complex to rely solely on a saint's internal magic. So to complete it, it must be supported by the world's natural magic, which is the mana. And so the first challenge for Grace is to successfully perceive the invisible flow of mana around her. To help Grace perceive mana, Filia instructs her to step out into the sunlight and tune into the rhythm of nature, letting its essence wash over her. She explains that doing so will help her enter a trance-like state where mana becomes more perceptible. Grace tries, standing still with eyes closed, focusing with all her might, but no matter how deeply she concentrates, she senses nothing unusual. The effort only frustrates her, and it reminds Filia of her own early struggles during training. Grace eventually sighs, admitting she feels only the ordinary pulse of nature. Filia assures her that this too is part of the process. For now, that's enough. But sensing Grace's lingering doubt, Filia decides to inspire her further. She performs an ancient ritual, summoning the robe of light. A soft mist of luminous energy gathers around her, glowing faintly in the sunlight. Now the mana is more visible. But instead of focusing on the lesson, Grace stares in awe, captivated. She gasps and calls Filia beautiful, saying she looks like an angel. Filia modestly dismisses the compliment, refusing to take it to heart. She wonders why someone from another kingdom admires her like this. Grace then reveals the reason. She owes everything to Filia's books. Her admiration isn't sudden. She's been reading the books Filia wrote. Filia nearly forgot about those books, having written them only as a modest record of the knowledge she gained as a saint. She never imagined they would touch someone so deeply, let alone inspire such devotion from a stranger. Grace shares that as the fourth child in a renowned family of saints, she was never seen as particularly gifted. Her only strength lies in her relentless training. Filia's books gave her hope, strength, and a path to follow. She praises Filia's writing and says it saved her during difficult times. That's why she's such a devoted fan. She came all this way just to thank her in person. In that moment, the memory of her mother scolding her for publishing the books returns to Filia's mind. Even Prince Julius, her former fiancé, had called it foolish, accusing her of boasting about her accomplishments. Eventually, the books were burned, reduced to ashes, and their circulation in Gertonia was brought to an end. All this time, Filia believed it was normal to be rejected by her own home, no matter how hard she tried. That regret had haunted her for years, making her wish she had never written anything at all. But now, listening to Grace's heartfelt words, something shifts inside her. For the first time, she realizes that Gertonia is just a small part of the world, and there's always more somewhere else. After some time, the two decide to take a break, and over tea and sweets, Grace asks Filia about her experience as a tutor. Surprised to learn that she is the very first student Filia has ever taught, Grace can hardly believe it, considering how natural and composed Filia seems while teaching. But Filia admits that she is simply imitating her own mentor. Curious, Grace asks who that mentor was. Her teacher was the former saint of Gertonia, Hildigard Adenauer, her paternal aunt. Though incredibly strict, Filia eventually grew accustomed to her harsh methods. She recalls being left alone in the mountains during winter to survive, buried in the desert to endure the heat, and made to lie on a bed of thorns, just to sharpen her control over magic. Filia says it was hard, but Grace, hearing this, knows it was far beyond that. Grace asks why her teacher was so hard on her, and Filia pauses to think. Her memories draw back to something her teacher once said. Hildegard told her that she and Filia's parents had a bad relationship, and since Filia looks exactly like her, they hate her as well. That's why Hildegard pushed her so hard, to make her strong enough to endure that burden. Only then does Filia truly realize that her teacher had always cared for her in her own way. Later, in the mansion, Filia reads a romance novel lent to her by Lena. She has questions about the plot, and Lena eagerly answers, her excitement filling the room. Then Leonard approaches with a letter in hand. It's from Himari, confirming that the letter Filia sent has been delivered. Leonard also reminds her of tomorrow's agenda, visiting Elizabeth, the former saint's grave, with Grace. Early the next day, Filia and Grace visit Elizabeth's grave. Grace reveals that Elizabeth was her cousin, born in a frail condition, which caused her family constant concern. She passed away 3 months ago. As they stand by the grave, Prince Richard approaches, holding flowers in his hand. He's shocked to see Filia there and for a moment mistakes Grace for Elizabeth. After a brief pause, he regains his composure and realizes it's not Elizabeth but her cousin, Grace. A bouquet of wilting flowers, similar to the ones Prince Richard holds, is already laid on Elizabeth's grave. It's clear that he must have come here not long ago. As he places the fresh flowers alongside the wilting ones, he quietly offers a prayer. Looking at the grave, Prince Richard explains that he and Elizabeth had been previously engaged. He speaks of her fondness for golden freesia, the flowers he now places at her resting place. He shares that Liz loved the scent of these flowers, and by offering them now, he hopes they'll remind her of him. Seeing this sight, Filia realizes just how deeply Prince Richard loved Liz. Despite his royal duties, he still finds time to visit her grave, bringing her favorite flowers each time. Filia watches quietly, aware that she's never experienced that kind of love. She has always longed to be cherished by others, but she now understands she's never really known how to love in return. The next day, Filia stares out her window in quiet thought when Lena enters. She gives Filia a small task, to deliver something to Prince Oswald. Filia walks through the garden to the designated meeting spot and hands him the basket. As she's about to turn away, Prince Oswald gently stops her, inviting her to share the sandwiches with him. They sit on a bench and eat their sandwiches while Filia quietly observes the surroundings, lush rows of vegetables and herbs, all cultivated by Prince Oswald himself. Curiosity rises within her. Why would a prince tend to gardens? As if sensing her thoughts, Prince Oswald explains that he has no interest in claiming the throne. Though the nobles often support his succession, he has no desire for political games. He loves his kingdom and his family, but he chooses to live as a son who's free from courtly ambitions. His sincerity touches Filia. She realizes that before being a prince, Oswald is simply a kind soul who loves his family. Filia then shares how she encountered Prince Richard at the cemetery the day before. Oswald confirms that his brother was truly in love with Elizabeth, which came as quite a shock for Prince Oswald. His brother, who is a very serious type of person, becomes head over heels over a girl. He once vowed to protect the saint to prove himself worthy of being a king, but in the end he failed to save her. Ever since, he has buried himself in endless work, punishing himself for what he sees as his greatest failure. Though sadness is natural, Prince Oswald feels helpless, able only to watch and hope his brother heals in time. Prince Oswald shifts the topic to his hobbies. While pretending to be the idle, indifferent son, he discovers something meaningful: gardening. It brings him peace and allows him to give back to those around him. Filia, on the other hand, realizes she has no such hobby. All she remembers is the harshness of her parents. Then the voice of her younger sister surfaces in her memory. As a saint, she spends her life buried in duty, never stopping to wonder what she truly wants. In truth, everything she has done is for her parents' approval. Their recognition is the one thing she's always chased. Without it, her efforts feel hollow. Only now does she begin to understand. There are people whose lives she touches, people who are genuinely happy because of her. At that moment, Prince Oswald leans closer to her and tells her she is doing great, the very words she has always longed to hear from her parents, but never did. His words touch her deeply. Deep down, she has always yearned to hear them. She tears up with this thought while Prince Oswald tries to comfort her. Over the next few days, Grace shows noticeable improvement in her training. She grows more confident in perceiving mana and begins to reflect light like what Filia did. Meanwhile, Arnold seems unusually curious about their lessons. Grace assumes Arnold is fascinated by ancient rituals, but to her surprise, Arnold is not interested in the rituals themselves. He is gathering information to report back to the king as he is curious about his daughter's current progress. So Grace goes on to complain about her father's high expectations, but in between her relentless talking, Filia suddenly freezes. Something reminds her of the ancient rituals. Without explaining, she abruptly ends their session, leaving Grace confused and concerned. Elsewhere, in Prince Richard's quarters, he summons Prince Oswald abruptly and hands him a sealed letter recently arrived from Gertonia. As Oswald reads the contents, his expression shifts from confusion to fury. He slams the letter down, demanding if this is meant to be a joke, but it clearly isn't. For reasons still unclear, the kingdom of Gertonia is demanding that Filia return. Mia stands in Prince Julius's quarters as he reads the plan she prepared. It warns of a possible threat from the demon's realm, something that could soon endanger the kingdom. But Prince Julius refuses to take it seriously. He glances at the papers and immediately dismisses them as nonsense. Julius speaks, but Mia barely listens. Her thoughts drift elsewhere. She keeps hearing Himura's voice in her mind, repeating the same advice: leave the kingdom of Gertonia while there's still time. It's a logical choice, but Mia can't do it. She won't forgive the man who sold her sister to another kingdom. Prince Julius continues speaking, comparing Mia to her sister Filia, as if she is trying to replace her. But Mia isn't trying to take anyone's place. She only wants to help. Julius dismisses her warnings, claiming that politics belong to men. To him, using the kingdom's funds and military for something that happens only once a century is foolish. Mia tries to reason with him, reminding him how much wealth he gained after Filia was sent to Parnacorda. But he already used that wealth to build a giant gold statue of the royal family. Mia stares at him, stunned. In that moment, she realizes Gertonia truly is in danger, not just from the demon realm, but from the prince himself. Suddenly, a loud noise interrupts them. The doors burst open. The king steps in, weak, tired, but still trying. Prince Julius turns pale. The king asks about Mia's concerns, interested in her warning about the demon realm. But Julius quickly dismisses her again, insisting she is just a woman and doesn't deserve to be heard. The king grows angry at Prince Julius's words, insisting that a saint understands monsters better than anyone. He scolds the prince for sending Saint Filia to Parnacorda without his approval and now refusing to listen to Mia's warnings. Mia's suspicion is confirmed. Sending Filia away was Julius's decision alone. Still, the prince insists it was Filia's choice. His father, however, never believed that. The king urges Mia to continue her work, though he is growing weaker each day. Without Filia, the kingdom's supply of medicine is running low. Though she left behind a recipe for the cure, the guards claim it was lost by mistake. At that moment, Mia realizes something deeper. The true reason Prince Julius sent Filia away was to remove the king. Without his father, he can take full control of the kingdom. Left alone with Mia, Prince Julius tells her to trust in the strength of Gertonia's forces instead. Mia finds it absurd that he ignores even his father's advice and continues with his selfish plans. Seeing no other option, Mia decides to act. She uses her charm to persuade the prince to join her to drive out the monsters at the Gertonian borders the next day. The next day, the forest echoes with the prince's shrieks of fear. They are surrounded by hundreds of monsters, maybe more, ready to strike. Mia hopes that seeing this firsthand will finally make the prince come to his senses and agree with her. After Mia takes down the first wave of monsters, the prince quickly finds an excuse to leave. He clutches his stomach, claiming he feels unwell and that the situation isn't serious enough to need him. He insists Mia can handle it alone. Mia looks at him in disbelief. Even in the face of danger, Prince Julius refuses to admit he was wrong. Though the prince tries to escape, the overwhelming number of monsters spawning around them blocks his path. Mia explains the seriousness of the situation. If the monsters aren't stopped soon, they will overrun the entire kingdom. But even in clear danger, Prince Julius refuses to listen. He brings up Filia again, claiming Mia is only trying to humiliate him like her sister once did. Mia suddenly understands he has an inferiority complex toward Filia. As the monsters draw closer, he hides behind Mia, even pushing her forward to shield himself. Despite being her fiancé, he's ready to abandon her without hesitation. Yet he still insists that women should know their place. After Mia drives away the last wave of monsters, Prince Julius still refuses to take responsibility. He blames everything on Filia, claiming it's her fault for abandoning them. Now he plans to bring her back. Mia doubts Parnacorda would agree even if they're offered double the price they paid for her. But Julius insists Filia isn't even worth a penny and scolds Mia for acting like her. In his eyes, Mia's only role is to be charming as his wife and stay out of important matters. Mia feels shattered. No matter how hard she tries, he won't listen. With the demon realm drawing closer, she no longer knows what to do. Elsewhere, a lady strolls peacefully when a demon familiar named Mammon approaches her, speaking with clear malice. Before he can go further, his master Urza appears and slices off his head with one blow. The lady runs away in fear. Unbothered, Mammon casually picks up his head and reattaches it. They then discuss the looming threat of the archdemon Asmodeus. Over 400 years ago, Saint Fianna sealed Asmodeus away, but with the demon realm creeping closer, the seal is weakening. If it breaks, Asmodeus will return in an instant. Urza is the Archbishop's personal exorcist, and they've both been sent by the church to prepare for the possible revival of Asmodeus, readying themselves for the impending crisis. Meanwhile, Prince Julius sits alone in his study, reflecting on how his life has unraveled since he sold Filia. From a young age, he was praised by the nobles as the one who deserved the throne. He was always seen as the best until Filia arrived and became the greatest saint of all time. Filia refuses to listen to him and has her own opinions, making him feel humiliated and overshadowed. While he is talking to himself about it, a silhouette steps forward. Marquis Prize reveals himself. He agrees with everything Julius has just said and offers a solution. Prize reveals that former Saint Fianna left something powerful hidden beneath the capital's church. It's a ring that holds all her magical power, and whoever breaks its seal will gain unimaginable strength. This could be his chance to prove himself to Filia and gain the power he desires. The information excites Prince Julius. This could be his opportunity to become the most powerful man ever. No longer will Filia, Mia, or his father control him. Marquis Prize seems satisfied with how things are unfolding, his eyes glowing red as blue flames surround him, as if he's no longer in control himself. As Prize walks away from the prince's chambers, he suddenly snaps back to his senses. Confused, he looks around, unable to remember how he got there or what he was doing. The eerie flame disappears, leaving him disoriented and unsure of his actions. News reaches Parnacourta that Gertonia, through Prince Oswald, has requested Filia's return. Filia, Lena, and Leonard assume the situation there is worsening. Although Parnacourta has the right to refuse, the prince believes Filia should be informed so she can choose for herself. Filia reflects on the request. If she leaves, the Great Purification Circle will weaken, putting Parnacourta at risk. Though she sent Himari to assist Mia, it seems her efforts failed, likely because Julius ignored or overruled her. Filia grows frustrated just thinking about the situation. Sensing her unease, Prince Oswald gently reminds her that she's not alone. He suggests a compromise. Since their goal is to improve Gertonia's current situation, he can send Parnacourta's knights instead. They are highly capable, and even Leonard, now her trusted butler, is a former knight. Their presence could greatly assist Mia and the kingdom. Filia feels relieved by Oswald's concern for both Mia and Gertonia and quietly thanks him. It's rare for her to accept helps, so Leonard and Lena glance at her in surprise. Flustered, Filia quickly changes the topic and offers to serve the prince some tea. Lena follows her, leaving Leonard and Prince Oswald to talk. As they watch her go, they reflect on how much Filia has grown. Once unwilling to rely on others, she is now learning to share her burdens and trust those around her. Meanwhile, Filia's training with Grace steadily improves. Grace can now control mana much better than before. During one of their sessions, Leonard interrupts with a message from Himari. Filia pauses the training and takes a break with tea and sweets as she reads the letter. The letter reveals troubling news. The king's condition is worsening, and the medicine recipe Filia left behind has been lost on purpose. Even more concerning, Prince Julius is scheming behind the scenes in Gertonia, and Mia is working to take him down through political means. Filia is taken aback. Mia is kind and gentle by nature, yet now she's taking bold, decisive action. This shift makes Filia realize something truly serious must be happening in Gertonia. Filia decides to send the improved medicine recipe to the king through Himari, hoping it will aid in his recovery. With the king's health restored, she believes Gertonia's political system may stabilize. The knights Parnacourta plans to send will also provide much-needed support to Mia. Meanwhile, in Mia's bedroom, she confides in Himari about everything she has uncovered regarding Prince Julius. Himari's assassin instincts surface, and she offers to eliminate the prince. However, Mia immediately dismisses the idea such an act would spark a war between their kingdoms, something they cannot afford in the face of the demon realm's threat. Himari asks Mia about her plans for Prince Julius. She wants him to suffer deeply for what he did to her sister. She longs to make him pay. With her authority as the saint, carrying out her plans would be easy. But she reminds herself of her role. A saint is meant to protect the people, not act on personal vengeance. No matter how strong her anger burns, she knows she cannot let it guide her actions. Still, a quiet thought lingers. When all of this is over, she doubts she'll remain a saint at all. Her thoughts drift back to her childhood. When she first learned that Filia had received her saint certification, she felt genuine happiness for her sister. Yet confusion lingered. Her parents never mentioned it to her. She recalls how her mother constantly reminded her to limit contact with Filia so she could focus on her training. Because of this, despite being close in age, Mia and Filia barely saw each other or spoke. One day, Mia decides she wants to know more about her sister. Wearing a different wig instead of clothes, she disguises herself and sneaks out of their home. It's Filia's saintly debut, and Mia is determined to see it for herself. Near the capital of Gertonia, a pillar of light is set to rise. Mia blends in with the crowd, excitement fluttering in her chest. The main road is crowded, so she tries to take a shortcut through a quieter path. But as she walks, a monster suddenly appears, blocking her way. Panic sets in. Though born from a saintly bloodline Mia has never trained, Mia believes sainthood belongs to her sister alone, not to her. She panics for a moment, frozen in place as the monster snarls before her. But just as it lunges, Filia arrives. In one swift motion, her sister drives the creature away, shielding Mia from harm. At that moment, Mia compares Filia to a hero. That day in her saintly debut, she watches Filia building countless pillars of light rise across the kingdom. It feels like she's meeting her sister for the first time. From that day on, Mia begins to idolize Filia, not just as a sister, but as someone she wants to become. She tells herself that someday she will be strong enough to help people, to protect the kingdom just like Filia. Her sister becomes her role model, her guiding light. Even when Filia was sold to another kingdom, she never showed bitterness or complained. Revenge never mattered to her, only the safety of the people she vowed to protect. This is what Mia wants to follow for herself as well. However, she can't bear seeing her sister hated by those she saved. It fills her with anger toward the people who turn against Filia. She wants to use her mind and make rational decisions, but her emotions are too overwhelming, making it hard to find clarity. In her frustration, Mia confides in Himari, tears swelling in her eyes. Himari reassures her, saying she doesn't need to be like Filia. She's her own person and should do what feels right for her, staying true and honest to herself. As long as Mia continues to move forward, it's enough. Himari's words strike Mia deeply, helping her realize that she can be her own person. From that moment on, she decides to let the fury in her heart fuel her, even if it's painful. She stands tall, declaring that she will continue to despise Prince Julius, but as a saint, she will expose his corrupt schemes. Though her motives are selfish, she aims to serve both the kingdom and her own interests. After all, she is Mia Adenauer, the 29th saint of Gertonia. To set her plan in motion, Mia knows she needs someone capable of stabilizing the kingdom's political structure while the king recovers. The person who fits this role perfectly is none other than Prince Ferdinand, the first prince of Gertonia. That morning, while walking through the roads of Gertonia, Mia is greeted by a man who introduces himself as Pierre. He tells her that he's been assigned to lead her personal guard from now on. Mia smiles at the news and, before continuing with her duties, asks Pierre to take her to the first Prince Ferdinand. Pierre agrees and leads the way. As they walk, they talk about Prince Ferdinand and Prince Julius. Coincidentally, Mia ends up aligning with the first prince's guards. Pierre explains that although many soldiers secretly support Ferdinand, they must keep it hidden so Prince Julius doesn't find out. This confirms what Himari once told her. Prince Ferdinand has always been weak and sickly, making it easy for the nobles to sideline him. Pierre shares how poorly Prince Julius treats the soldiers. While they risk their lives on the battlefield, Julius wastes resources on ridiculous things like building statues of himself. Mia listens intently, then asks about the first prince's current condition. Pierre explains that Prince Ferdinand is in a terrible state, both physically and emotionally. After being driven out of the main castle by Julius, he was placed under house arrest in that place, losing all hope. Mia is stunned. When she asks how long it's been, Pierre replies, 12 years. The weight of that truth settles on Mia. She knows convincing him won't be easy. But Gertonia is in peril, and there's no time left to wait. She must act immediately. Arriving in the prince's quarters, the room is dim with only a few candles lighting the space. In the quiet, she hears a soft cough. Prince Ferdinand sits in his bed, a book in hand, and his hair covering most of his face. Mia gently introduces herself as Prince Julius's fiancé. At this, Ferdinand looks up. He had believed Filia was still engaged to Julius. Mia explains that Filia is her older sister, who now serves as a saint in another kingdom, and thus had to break off the engagement. Ferdinand is taken aback, surprised they allowed Filia to leave. Mia adds that the king has been ill for some time now, and Prince Julius has taken over state affairs in his place. Hearing this, Prince Ferdinand calmly states that Julius will likely get rid of him soon too. He closes the book in his hands and faces Mia, his face now lit by the candles. The calmness in his expression shocks Mia. He looks entirely unfazed, even as he speaks of his own downfall. Without wasting time, Mia moves to the main agenda. She explains her true reason for coming, to stand against Prince Julius and save Gertonia. Though Ferdinand believes the people who support him are just clinging to tradition, that they simply want the eldest son to rule, Mia insists it's more than that. The kingdom is on the brink of collapse, and with Julius on the throne, disaster is inevitable. With that, Ferdinand remarks that Mia must truly hate his brother. Mia doesn't deny it. She admits she hates Julius deeply, not just from personal grudges, but because she is the saint sworn to protect the kingdom at all costs. Realizing she's a saint too, Ferdinand's expression darkens and he suddenly asks her to leave. Mia is taken aback by the abrupt dismissal but refuses to give up. In response, Ferdinand pulls the blanket over himself, hiding completely to avoid further confrontation. Despite Mia's repeated efforts to talk him out, he stays curled under the blanket, refusing to come out. Later that day, Mia carries on with her saintly duties, creating barriers of light, though each one flares with the intensity of her frustration toward the first prince. She mutters her complaints aloud but quickly covers her mouth, realizing someone might hear her. However, most of her guards are loyal to Ferdinand, so Pierre reassures her there's no need to worry. Still agitated, Mia vents her frustration to Pierre. He recalls how he once suggested the prince go out more, but Ferdinand firmly refused, which only stresses Mia further. She realizes that before she can convince him to rule, she must first help him heal, both in body and spirit. That being said, Pierre remembers the medicine Filia once made for the prince. Although Julius didn't sabotage it, Ferdinand eventually stopped taking it on his own. Meanwhile, in Parnacorda, Filia starts a new hobby to pass the time, making jewelry. Lena admires her craft, and Filia shares her plan to make one as a thank you gift for Prince Oswald, who has always been kind to her. She recalls the joy she felt when she gave Mia a hairpin, so now she wants to create something Oswald can wear as well. At the same time, Filia stands up and presents a bracelet to Lena, but before she can explain its meaning, Lena embraces her tightly, overwhelmed with joy. However, their moment is interrupted by a knock on the door. Leonardo appears, holding an envelope in his hand. It is a letter from Gertonia, sent by Himari. The next day, Mia returns to Prince Ferdinand and asks why he stopped taking the medicine Filia made. He explains that the medicine was terrible. After he began recovering, he couldn't stop shaking. He believes that if he starts to look better, talk of succession will rise again, and Julius might see it as a threat and kill him. He'd rather stay sick than risk his life. Mia offers to protect him. If he knows he is safe, he can take the medicine without fear. But even after considering it, Ferdinand still refuses. Mia assures him that she will remain on his side regardless. Then, without waiting for more protests, she leaves, telling him she will return, even though Ferdinand secretly hopes she won't. Meanwhile, in Parnacorda, Filia is summoned by the king to the castle. She worries it might be due to her failure to fulfill her saintly duties because of the Great Purification Circle. However, Prince Oswald, who accompanies her in the carriage, finds this amusing. He reassures her that his father simply wishes to meet her in recognition of her commendable work. He adds firmly that if anyone dares to speak ill of her, he will not tolerate it, something he refuses to accept under any circumstances. Filia notes that it would be scandalous for her son to speak against the king, but Oswald only laughs in response. In the royal chambers, the king warmly introduces himself and Filia returns the greeting with grace. He brings up Oswald's report about the Great Purification Circle and Filia's success in preventing monsters from entering the kingdom. As it turns out, the king meant to reward her efforts. Something about the king reminds Filia of Oswald. The king then asks if there is anything she desires, promising that whatever it is, they will do their best to grant it as a token of their gratitude. At that moment, Filia remembers the letter Himari sent her earlier. The situation in Gertonia is worsening, even with the help of the former saint Hildigard. As if sensing her thoughts, the king asks if she wishes to help her sister in another kingdom, and Filia immediately responds with eager approval. She has long wanted to help Mia. Though Mia is trying her best to do her saintly duties, the current state of Gertonia frightens Filia more than she expected. Suddenly, the weight of her worry becomes clear. Filia realizes she has been afraid for her sister all along. She is about to apologize for her emotional reaction when the king gently stops her. He has already heard of her request and assures her it will be granted. Filia insists that she is a saint and must act with duty, but the king reminds her that she must also consider herself, that sometimes even saints are allowed to be selfish. The king instructs Oswald to oversee the dispatch of knights to Gertonia and to assist Filia at all costs. Filia can hardly believe the support she is receiving. However, Oswald also brings up the growing number of monstrous attacks. Their forces will most likely reach their limit, and even the kingdom's elite knights will not be able to hold out forever. Filia, however, already has a plan. She only needs the kingdom's permission to proceed. The plan, she explains, will not only save Gertonia, but also protect the neighboring countries. The king is pleased to hear this, but Filia clarifies that she is not the key to the plan, it's Grace. Grace, upon hearing this, is stunned. Filia intends to create another Great Purification Circle, one powerful enough to span the entire continent. Oswald understands now, but wonders why Filia waited until now. The reason is simple. She does not possess enough power alone to maintain a barrier of that scale. That is why Grace is essential. Filia will need to borrow some of her magical energy to bring the plan to life. An ancient power known as the Magic Convergence spell can be used to pool magical energy from multiple individuals, but it quickly becomes clear that even combined, their strength is not enough. Filia rises with determination and brings up Grace's sisters, 3 in total, all of whom are also saints. She proposes teaching Grace the Magic Convergence spell, which she can, in turn, teach her sisters. With 5 saints working together, the Great Purification Circle stands a much greater chance of succeeding. While the ritual is prepared and performed, the knights will be tasked with holding off the monsters, giving them the time they need. Filia kneels before Grace, sincerely asking for her help. Without hesitation, Grace takes her hand and promises to support her. There is nothing she wants more than to be of help to Filia. As her student, Grace is determined to take on the challenge and says that she must learn and practice immediately all the rituals involved. Grace and Filia begin a practice in the library, then move outside to train surrounded by nature. Filia teaches her patiently and gives her an amulet to aid in focusing her magic. Even after Grace falls asleep that evening, Filia remains awake, still busy. The next day, while Grace practices the spell with deep concentration, Prince Richard arrives. Oswald had informed him of the plan, so he came to check on their progress. Grace is already close to mastering the spell. Filia cannot read Richard's expression and remains unsure of his opinion. However, as if sensing her thoughts, he calmly explains that the plan is wonderful. Not only will it protect the continent, but it will also earn the gratitude of other kingdoms without requiring a sacrifice. Filia speaks of her desire to also protect her friends, family, and even those she has not yet met. Her words stir something within Richard, who suddenly recalls someone in mind. He recognizes the similarity between them, both born into duty, but unlike Filia, he failed to uphold his devotion to the one he once cared for. Moved, he reminds Filia to not only think of others, but also to care for herself. As he turns to leave, Filia calls out to him. She declares that she will not die. Her sacred duty is not yet fulfilled. Her certainty leaves Richard stunned. She adds that she loves the kingdom as well, then bows and takes her leave. Richard watches her go, a quiet smile forming on his lips. In that moment, he realizes she has surpassed him. In Gertonia, Mia visits Prince Ferdinand once again. As he opens his window, the sunlight pours in, prompting him to shield his face as if seeing something long forgotten. Mia brings out a picnic basket she prepared, hoping to lift his spirits. He is quite surprised by her persistence. Pierre informs him of how packed her days are, and yet she still chooses to come. Ferdinand feels she is overextending herself. Mia responds firmly, stating that the kingdom is in crisis and she cannot stand idly by. She urges Ferdinand to feel the same, reminding him that Julius is the source of his misery. But Ferdinand sees it differently. He believes Mia speaks with such conviction only because she is strong, unlike him. He confesses how his illness has become his crutch, how he leaned into his weakness as an excuse. He claims he had no choice. Julius's cruel words still linger in his mind. For a long time, Ferdinand believed he was worthless and that giving up was the only option left. It was not death he feared, but the realization that he had been useless all this time. That was what haunted him most. Yet as he spoke, Mia relates to him and she begins to cry, catches him off guard. She is a saint, supposed to be strong and earnest. Mia, through her tears, explains that if he refuses to stand up for himself, he cannot even be called a failure. Failure at least means trying, but those who make excuses and avoid their fate don't even reach that level. Failing isn't shameful, running away is. She then runs off in frustration, and though Ferdinand reaches out, he cannot stop her. Left alone, something stirs in him. He looks at the picnic basket she brought and opens it slowly. Inside are sandwiches. A faint smile forms on his lips. He wonders if she will come back or if she has given up on him now. The thought unsettles him more than he expects. Then, with a hesitant breath, he stands and steps toward the sunlight spilling through the window. He realizes, if he wants to see her again, he simply has to walk forward. Mia has finally worn him down. At the Gertonia defensive lane, Mia tends to an injured guard, her healing magic softly glowing as it closes his wound. As she finishes, Pierre approaches and thanks her for all her hard work that day. Mia doesn't mind at all. Compared to her former guards, Pierre's troops have shown remarkable help, especially in fighting off the monsters. More importantly, Mia is relieved by the return of her aunt Hildigard to her saintly duties. Without Hildigard sharing in the responsibilities, Mia knows the kingdom would have fallen into chaos by now. However, that relief is short-lived. Earlier that day, the protective barriers once erected by Filia had finally broken. With this, a demon seems to have woken up and tells his shadow to get Filia. That night, while Filia sleeps in her room, a shadowy demon slips and sneaks into her home. Sensing the threat, she quickly casts a binding spell. Now frozen in place, the shadow writhes under her spell. All of a sudden, a woman emerges from the shadows, gripping a shining axe. She introduces herself as Erzanotis, an exorcist from the Church of Krimu. She has brought a dire warning for Filia. According to her, the demon realm is steadily advancing and the archdemon Asmodeus is regaining his strength. If this progression continues, Asmodeus will soon return in full form. More importantly, Erza emphasizes that his first target will be Filia, the greatest saint of this time. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Gertonia, Mia contemplates the national conference she is expected to attend. Since it will keep her away for some time, she hopes to visit Prince Ferdinand beforehand. However, just as she thinks about it, she bumps into Marquis Purs. A known supporter of Prince Julius, he pointedly questions her, asking why the kingdom's saint is paying a visit to Prince Ferdinand's villa. With graceful poise, Mia responds to Marquis Purs, using her charm to emphasize the importance of her role as a saint. She explains that caring for the well-being of the people includes looking after the first Prince, Ferdinand. However, upon learning that Ferdinand repeatedly turns her away, he chuckles dismissively. He warns her not to approach the prince again, claiming there is no hope for Ferdinand to regain his former self. Such heartless remarks may very well be the reason why Ferdinand remains distant. Thankfully, Marquis Purs' son reminds them of the time, so they all proceed to the conference room for the meeting. As the discussion begins, everyone is stunned when Prince Julius notices Prince Ferdinand already sitting in one of the chairs. He even asks Julius to show him proper respect. Mia, remembering how determined Ferdinand was to stay hidden during her last visit, can hardly believe what she's seeing. Julius quickly tries to dismiss Ferdinand's presence, questioning his intentions. He explains that after hearing about their father's poor health, he feels he must step up as the rightful first prince to take on leadership. At the conference, Ferdinand raises several important concerns, including his refusal to accept aid from Parnacorda. However, Julius seems only focused on his own ego and pride, interrupting angrily as if he isn't listening to his brother at all. Despite this, Ferdinand speaks boldly, sharing strong and sometimes drastic opinions that impress Mia. She admires how fearless he is in standing up to Julius. Yet, beneath Ferdinand's calm and confident exterior, Mia notices his trembling hands gripping his pants tightly. It's clear he's struggling to keep himself together and can only hold on for so long. Mia understands just how serious and painful his situation is, knowing his trauma won't vanish quickly. Watching him do his best despite everything, she feels a strong desire to support him through this difficult time. Julius repeatedly blames Filia for refusing his request to return, growing increasingly frustrated. Ferdinand, however, remains calm and rational, already anticipating Julius' reaction and choosing not to engage in what he sees as childish arguments. This only triggers Julius further, who demands that Filia's parents be punished. Unable to continue the meeting calmly, he abruptly ends it and dismisses everyone for the day. Right after the conference, Ferdinand meets Mia outside the hall and apologizes for not being able to do more. However, Mia's kind words and heartfelt compliments take him by surprise. Her encouragement reassures him that returning to the castle was the right choice. Meanwhile, Julius, still fuming over Filia's refusal to return, coldly summons her parents. He threatens to confiscate their assets unless they agree to cooperate with the plan. Back outside the hall, Ferdinand confides in Mia about his plan to provoke Julius and reveal his true nature before it's too late. Inspired by his resolve, Mia officially agrees to work with him. Together, they vow to restore peace and balance to Gertonia once and for all. Elsewhere in the kingdom, Hildigard is busy reinforcing magical barriers to guard against the growing threat of monsters. As she finishes a spell, Pierre approaches her with a serious look on his face. It's clear he has something important to say, and Hildigard pauses her work to listen. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Bolmern, Grace is doing her best to fulfill Filia's request to teach the great purification spell to her sisters. However, her eldest sister, Emily, seems reluctant to cooperate, even though their father has already approved the idea. Emily's hesitation stems from how she views Filia, not as an ally, but as a rival. She believes that Bolmern can protect itself without outside help. Despite this, her younger sisters, Amanda and Jane, are more open-minded and quickly agree with Grace's plan. They tease Emily, joking that she's just jealous of Filia. Eventually, after enough playful taunting, Emily gives in, if only to prove them wrong. As the training begins, the three sisters turn to Grace for guidance. Thankfully, Filia had prepared a comprehensive manual filled with all the instructions needed to perform the great purification spell and stretch the circle. Emily tries the spell first, and the moment she utters the incantation, the robe of light manifests around her, stunning everyone, including Emily herself. Trying not to show her amazement, she plays it cool, attributing the success to her own talent. However, deep inside, she silently acknowledges Filia's brilliance. Not wanting to owe anything to her rival, Emily urges her sisters to learn it just as quickly, determined to prove that they too are worthy saints in their own right. Back in Gertonia, Mia is speaking with Himari in the woods, and Pierre suddenly approaches with urgent news. He informs her that Prince Julius has already begun making strategic moves. Specifically, he has requested the Adenauer family to host a grand party, a gathering designed to unite the nobles and strengthen alliances under his influence. Though it seems like a social event, it has a deeper political motive behind it. Later, back at the castle, a church worker rushes toward Mia with an unusual request. Someone is asking to make a private confession directly to her. Curious and cautious, Mia enters the confession room. To her surprise, the visitor is none other than the son of Marquis Purs, an influential member of Julius's faction. His presence is unexpected, and Mia braces herself as he prepares to reveal something important. Later that night, Mia eagerly looks forward to sinking into bed, her body aching from the long, exhausting day. Just as she starts to relax, a sudden commotion echoes through the house, pulling her back to her feet. Concerned, she steps out of her room and is startled to find her aunt Hildigard being harshly scolded and driven away by her father. His voice is loud and furious, but Hildigard remains calm and composed. Without reacting to the yelling, Hildigard declares she has something to say to Mia. Understanding this, Mia follows her aunt out into the night for a more private conversation. As they step outside, Mia can't help but notice how much Filia resembles Hildigard, not just in appearance, but in presence. Attempting to show gratitude for Hildigard's efforts in repelling monsters, Mia speaks kindly, but Hildigard doesn't sugarcoat anything. She bluntly states how grim the situation has become. At this crucial moment, Hildigard can't seem to stop thinking about Filia, how easily she could have stopped everything if she were truly free to act. Without delay, Hildigard reveals her true reason for calling Mia out. She wishes to adopt her. Aware of Mia's ties to the First Prince's faction and her quiet intent to bring down Julius, Hildigard warns that his fall could bring ruin to Mia's parents as well. Hildigard has already lost her husband as well, but she promises to protect and support Mia, no matter what happens next. But beyond her innocent offer of adoption, Hildigard reveals a devastating truth about Filia that no one else knows about. It turns out that Filia is actually her daughter, stolen from her by Mia's parents. The revelation leaves Mia stunned, and Hildigard, seeing her confusion, begins to recount everything that happened in the past. As a young saint in training, Hildigard was favored by their parents, and this fact bred jealousy in her brother, Marquis. Over time, he began spreading rumors and lies about her, slowly poisoning the minds of those around them. Hildigard was cast out of their home, isolated and dishonored as part of the House Adenauer. Through time, her brother was able to marry and continue the lineage, but he failed to produce an heir. When Hildigard became pregnant with Filia, they saw an opportunity. Her brother took the child and claimed Filia was stillborn. In the wake of it all, her husband fell ill from the stress and heartbreak, and he too passed away. Crushed by loss and betrayal, Hildigard lost the will to fight. With all this laid bare, Hildigard admits that the only thing she can do for Filia is to teach her everything she needs to know, so she can stand on her own. However, guilt weighs heavily on her. She feels she has failed as a mother by letting her go and never telling her the truth. Mia, now in tears, demands answers. How could Hildigard spill something like this to her when she hasn't even told her daughter herself? Hildigard's response is quiet but firm. This is her own form of revenge, and in a way it's working, because now Mia no longer holds hope that her parents might change. Their betrayal seems final. Blaming herself, Mia breaks down further. She believes it was her birth that caused all this. Despite everything Hildigard has revealed, Mia still finds it hard to believe. Why would Hildigard choose to adopt the child of her archenemy? Hildigard then pulls out a letter from Filia, offering the answer. It's a heartfelt, lengthy message filled with deep concern and affection for Mia. In the letter, Filia writes about how kind, strong, and brave Mia is, how her presence made her feel at home, even when their parents treated her coldly. She speaks of Mia's warmth, saying it saved her during her darkest moments. More than a sister, Mia became her light. Filia's words go beyond love, they carry hope. She writes that Gertonia needs someone like Mia, someone who can bring warmth and healing to a kingdom falling apart. At the end of the letter, Filia pleads to her mentor, Hildigard, to protect Mia in any way she can. The monstrous situation in Gertonia worsens with each passing day. Despite Mia's tireless efforts to slay the creatures and her aunt Hildigard's persistent reinforcement of protective barriers around the kingdom, their defenses continue to falter. In addition to that, Prince Julius refuses to acknowledge the urgency of the situation. He not only denies the need for more resources, but has also rejected the assistance of Parnacora's knights. With the archdemon's presence growing stronger, time is slipping away, and despite her doubts, Mia knows immediate action is the only option left. Meanwhile, in Parnacora, Filia is accompanied by Urza and Mammon. Urza praises Filia's bold plan to expand the Great Purification Circle across the continent, but she cannot brush off the possibility of her plan failing. The ritual, while promising, still needs more time in order to be successfully completed. But with only 4 days left before the demon realm fully breaches the surface in Gertonia, the chances of success grow slimmer by the hour. Coincidentally, Prince Richard happens to pass by and overhears their conversation. Filia introduces Urza and Mammon to the prince, though he has already been informed of their arrival by the church. He tells Filia that Gertonia has refused the knights sent by Parnacorda, putting the kingdom in greater danger. With only 4 days remaining before the demon realm breaks through, the prince urges them to send the knights back immediately, as they are still vital to the kingdom's defense. Urza agrees with the prince's decision. If the demon realm's path is unleashed in Gertonia, it will inevitably lead to the awakening of the archdemon Asmodeus. When that happens, even Parnacorda, despite being protected by the Great Purification Circle, won't be entirely safe. Asmodeus' true target is Filia, and no amount of distance or protection may be enough if he fully awakens. The urgency to act grows heavier with each passing hour. That night, Filia welcomes Urza and Mammon into her home, where they discuss crucial concepts that may help her defeat the archdemon. Here, Urza discusses with her what the Church of Krimu teaches as the cycle of rebirth, a belief that even when the body perishes, the soul lives on eternally, and just continues to be reborn into a new vessel. According to this doctrine, the soul of Fiona, the archsaint who once sealed Asmodeus, is now within Filia. This is the reason Asmodeus is after her. He senses the presence of Fiona's soul. Urza then shares a story. As strange as it may sound, during the course of their battle long ago, Asmodeus fell in love with Fiona. Though it is rare for an archdemon to fall for an archsaint, it happened nonetheless. Mammon, listening quietly from the side, chuckles and calls it a tragic love story. But beneath the joke lies a grim reality. Asmodeus' return is not only about power or revenge, it's about rekindling a twisted love he has held onto for centuries. And now that love is directed toward Filia. The next day, Filia sits quietly outside her home, lost in thought, when suddenly, Prince Oswald approaches and offers her tea. Startled but grateful, she accepts. It turns out Lena had orchestrated the meeting, hoping to bring the two closer. Prince Oswald has been thoroughly briefed by his brother about Gertonia's rejection of Parnacorda's knights, the looming threat of Asmodeus, and the demon realm's rapid rise to the surface. Despite the dire situation, Oswald reassures Filia that Parnacorda stands firmly by her side. His calm and sincere words bring her a small but much-needed sense of peace. Even with the world seemingly falling apart, Prince Oswald doesn't let the moment slip by. With a slight nervous chuckle, he asks Filia if, perhaps, once everything is over, she would join him for dinner. Though his words carry a romantic undertone, Filia interprets it as a simple gesture of companionship and agrees without hesitation. Her casual response leaves Oswald visibly delighted, a wide, boyish grin spreading across his face. Back in Gertonia, Prince Julius hosts a lavish party, inviting all the nobles to indulge in luxury and celebration. Mia, present among the crowd, is filled with frustration. Despite the kingdom's looming danger, Julius remains obsessed with appearances, ignoring the chaos outside. The nobles, too, laugh and dance as if nothing is wrong, blind to the growing threat. But instead of breaking her, this fuels Mia's resolve. She knows now more than ever that she must give them a wake-up call. She won't flee or remain silent. This is no longer just about duty, it's about justice. It's also her revenge. Mia is instantly greeted by Prince Julius, who expects her to stay by his side like a trophy. But the mood quickly shifts when Prince Ferdinand arrives unannounced. Julius forces a smile and pretends to welcome his elder brother warmly. The crowd quickly begins to murmur. Seeing the long-absent first prince in person confirms the rumors of his return. Seizing the moment, Ferdinand steps forward and officially declares his intent to aid in solving the ongoing crisis. The nobles erupt in applause, rallying behind his promise. Though Ferdinand is merely trying to survive the night, Mia remains at his side, quietly urging him forward with whispered encouragements. Still recovering from his condition, Ferdinand politely excuses himself to take his medicine, leaving Mia alone with Julius to face the buzzing crowd. Seizing the moment, Julius proposes they finally choose a date and place for their wedding, suggesting they announce it to the nobles tonight. Mia, however, is more concerned about the safety of the kingdom and the growing threat of the demon realm. But Julius dismisses her concerns entirely, waving them off as if they were trivial. All he seems to care about is the image he wants to present, which only deepens Mia's frustration. During the toast, Julius hands his brother a glass of wine and George Adenauer leads the celebration. The nobles raise their glasses in unison. Just as the festivities seem to reach their peak, blood begins to spill from Prince Ferdinand's mouth. He clutches his chest, coughing violently as blood pours down his chin. All eyes turn to him in horror as he collapses to the ground. With his last breath, he silently accuses Julius before falling still. The crowd stands frozen, but Julius remains composed. Mia rushes to Fernand's side, checking for a pulse that no longer exists. Panic flashes across her face as she calls for help and prepares to use her healing powers. Just as she is about to begin the ritual, Julius grabs her wrist, halting her completely. Without a word, he makes his intention clear. He does not want his brother saved. His cold, unflinching actions expose the truth behind his ambition. Mia urges to bring the matter before the king, but the truth surfaces before she can act. The king, already in a weakened state for months, has been killed, silently, efficiently, while the guards are distracted by the ongoing celebration. With most of the castle's defense focused on the party, Julius finds it easy to carry out his plan. A knight bursts through the doors, reporting the death of the king. The entire hall freezes in disbelief, eyes wide with horror. Julius begins to laugh. Everything has gone according to plan. With the king and the first prince both gone, nothing stands in his way now. He sees himself as the rightful ruler of Gertonia, free to command as he pleases. He glares at the crowd, silently daring anyone to oppose him, making it clear that anyone who challenges him will meet the same fate. The reason behind the treachery is obvious. He has never wanted to serve the people. Instead, he wants the people to serve him, and with his rivals dead, nothing can stop him now. Julius turns to Mia, who stands frozen in shock. He declares the queenship as a gift she should welcome, insisting they marry at once. As he reaches out to her, a sudden voice interrupts the moment. From behind, Prince Fernand appears, standing tall despite his earlier collapse. With swift force, he pushes Julius to the ground. Julius stares up in confusion as the realization dawns. Everything he saw was staged. From the beginning, they have known of his betrayal. It can be remembered that Pyrrhus' son once approached Mia in the confession room, where he quietly revealed the prince's sinister plan to kill both his father and brother. Wanting to protect the kingdom, he chose to side with Mia and confessed everything he knew. As it turns out, Mia is not alone in her conviction. Prince Ferdinand too was informed about the plot. When he excused himself earlier, it was to take an antidote. The wine had been tampered with, but the effects were neutralized. The blood was staged, the collapse was choreographed. Every detail was part of an elaborate act to bring Prince Julius down. Julius begins to regret everything he said, hastily claiming it was all just a joke. But the final blow comes when even bigger news is revealed. His father, the king, is still alive. The assassins Julius sent were intercepted and defeated by Himere. Whispers ripple through the crowd and tension thickens in the air. Even as a prince, treason is a grave offense he must answer for. Still, Julius refuses to back down, insisting he has done nothing wrong and claiming he is more suited for the throne than his brother. But when he turns to the crowd for support, he is met with cold stares and grim expressions. The nobles who once followed him now look at him with contempt. Mia thinks to herself that this marks the beginning of justice for her sister. Julius believes Fernand pressured Mia to turn against him. But the truth is the opposite. She is the one who orchestrated everything. From luring him into a false sense of triumph to exposing him at the height of his arrogance, it was all her doing. She knew a crime so grave it would reveal his true nature, and with everyone present as witnesses, her plan succeeds. This might secure her the kingdom's favor. Mia confronts Julius, declaring the engagement void due to his attempt to murder 2 royal family members. Julius is stunned, unable to believe her words. He clings to the belief that Mia loves him, but the truth is clear. She could never love someone who sold her sister away. With that, Julius collapses to the floor, the weight of betrayal and consequence finally breaking him. Among the crowd, Mia's parents voice their disapproval, calling her actions foolish. But Mia cannot trust even them. Her anger is deeply rooted in how they treated Filia. She has always given them everything, supporting the kingdom in every way she could. Yet in the end, they agreed to sell Filia off to a neighboring kingdom. All Mia ever wanted was their approval, but they never understood her. Overwhelmed, she bursts into tears, and Fernand comforts her closely. This deeply unsettles Julius. Filia is someone he envies the most. Since childhood, he has believed there is something special about him. The nobles often see him as the perfect heir. Though Julius mastered every skill, his father repeatedly told him to improve his attitude, but he never cared. His brother's frailty only strengthened Julius's conviction that with superior blood and strength, he alone deserves to rule the kingdom. Until one day, Julius met Filia, the greatest saint of all time. Filia challenged his perfect image, threatening everything he had strived for. Determined to reclaim his superiority, Julius decided to sell her off. Now thinking of this, Julius trembles with anger, refusing to accept defeat. Even though Filia is no longer in the kingdom, she continues to surpass him in every way. Defiant, he stands up once more, laughing bitterly, unwilling to give up his claim or dignity. According to Julius, Mia should be the one in prison for setting him up and humiliating a king. However, when he tries to order someone to seize her, no one sides with him. All are convinced of his foolishness, having witnessed everything with their own eyes. Suddenly, a deep and firm voice speaks from behind him, telling him to stop humiliating himself. Julius dismisses it, assuming it comes from a mere old man. But when the speaker reveals his true identity, Julius is shocked to see that it is his own father, a king, standing before him. The crowd watching gasps in disbelief at the unexpected sight. Julius is stunned to see his father standing before him, completely healthy. He had believed the king was still bedridden. But thanks to Filia's herbal medicine, the king has made a full recovery. Panic sets in for Julius as a knight reports the discovery of a vial of poison hidden within the Adenauer residence, furnished by Marcus Pers. This evidence further solidifies the case against them. Without hesitation, the king orders the arrest of Marcus Pers and the Adenauers for their plan to murder him. He also warns those who neglected their duties during his absence. Every name has already been gathered through the confession of Pers' own son, and each will face condemnation. Despite the betrayal, Julius' involvement cannot be overlooked. The king, with a heavy heart, orders the guards to take his own son away. Yet this is merely the beginning. Mia's plan to lead a counterattack against the monsters under the king's guidance has succeeded, but a greater threat looms. The true battle lies beyond their borders, in the demon realm itself. Meanwhile, in Gertonia, while speaking with Prince Richard and Prince Oswald, Filia learns that the guards from Parnacorda have finally entered Gertonia. Although the delay might have made things worse, they still believe there's hope. As they talk, Grace arrives from Bolmern with good news. Her mission was a success. She gives Filia a necklace with a gem, explaining that it connects her to her 3 sisters. Each sister now has a matching gem, and together, these allow their magical energy to link as one. This bond is important for the ritual they must complete soon. By joining their mana, the ritual will be stronger and more effective. With no time to lose, they begin the ritual at once, focusing deeply and praying with all their strength. As Filia starts the chant, her sisters feel the connection through the glow of their necklaces. Prince Oswald and Prince Richard watch in awe as a brilliant light fills the space, far brighter and more powerful than the one Filia used to form the Great Purification Circle. The circle begins to expand rapidly, stretching across borders and reaching distant lands. Grace, amazed, is certain it has already reached Bolmern. But just as the ritual seems to be succeeding, Filia suddenly senses something strange. Just as Filia feared, Gertonia hasn't been saved. From out of nowhere, Erza and Mammon appear. It is Erza who delivers the bad news. The Great Purification Circle only covered the western half of the continent. Though the magic used was powerful and more than enough, it couldn't reach Gertonia. The region's condition is far more chaotic than Filia had expected, disrupting the flow of the spell. As a result, the circle formed only half of what it was meant to be. At that moment, panic grips Filia. She has failed, and for the first time in her life, she doesn't know what to do next. Her one chance to save her sister slipped away before her eyes. Now, the only remaining option is to go to Gertonia herself and erect a barrier of light directly within its borders. This seems like a sensible solution, but without Filia remaining in Parnacorda's capital, the Great Purification Circle will lose its power. Filia's gaze shifts to Grace. Now that their mana is linked, Grace can serve as the circle's new source of magic. Though it feels risky, Grace agrees without hesitation. She believes Filia must go to Gertonia to save her sister, and she promises to protect Parnacorda in her stead. However, just when they thought that everything is finally falling into place, Prince Richard firmly opposes the idea. As the sake of Parnacorda, Filia is too important to risk. He even considers withdrawing the knights he dispatched, now that the circle failed to reach beyond the west. Prince Oswald tries to reason with him, but Richard silences him, ready to bear their anger if it means protecting the kingdom. Erza, listening from nearby, also sides with Richard. Gertonia is already collapsing, and Filia may be too late to save it. Worse, the archdemon Asmodeus could reappear at any time, and he will target Filia's soul directly. Her life holds the key to their kingdom's future, so no matter how painful the choice, the safest and most logical decision is for her to stay where she is safer. Of course, Filia knows the consequences of her actions. Still, she cannot live with the thought of abandoning her sister. Just as despair begins to overwhelm her, Prince Oswald steps forward and reminds her that she is not alone. He will support her, no matter what she decides. In that moment, Filia finds clarity. She wants to save her sister, no matter the cost. With unwavering conviction, she declares it, and Oswald responds with a quiet smile, standing firmly by her side. Prince Richard burns with anger. What they are doing is reckless, and the thought of losing his brother too is unbearable. But Oswald is calm and certain he has no intention of letting anyone be lost. He draws Filia close, nods to her, and decides it is time. Despite Richard's protests, their decision is made. Before departing, they share one final look with Richard and offer a quiet promise. They will return safely. Erza and Mammon also watch in silence, and neither moves to stop them. Even if the odds are slim, they know nothing can change the path Filia and Oswald have chosen, and they can only hope for the best. Prince Oswald and Filia begin their journey to Gertonia on horseback, determined to save her sister. They ride quickly, knowing time is running out. Meanwhile, Mia fights alongside Himari and the Kingdom Knights, struggling to hold back endless waves of monsters. Every effort only delays the attack. They aren't defeating the creatures, just slowing them down. Mia has been casting barrier after barrier, but for every one she raises, more monsters appear. Her magic is running low and the knights are growing tired. Suddenly, they see a new source of hope. The Parnacortan guards have arrived to help them, pushing back the monsters. Mia silently rejoices, thinking her sister's help has finally come. But just when things seem to get better, the barrier she just created breaks and all the monsters rush in at once. Everyone stands frozen as hundreds of monsters reappear from the dark forest. At this point, there seems to be no way out. Though it would be lovely to go where her sister is, Mia knows she cannot leave her responsibilities in Gertonia. Even Himari thinks this might be the time to grab Mia and escape, but to their surprise, Mia steps forward toward the monsters. While thinking of all the things she could have done if she had gone with Himari to Parnacorda, she moves forward and destroys everything in her path, using all her magic to defend the kingdom. She knows this will make her weak, yet she still chooses to fight. The knights soon follow Mia's lead and attack as well, but no matter how hard they fight, the monsters only seem to grow in number. Even with the chance to escape, Mia never takes it, all because she believes she doesn't deserve to. Deep down, she blames herself for her sister's suffering, thinking she has no right to be saved. At that moment, Pierre recalls a conversation he had with Prince Ferdinand about Mia. She was determined to seek vengeance on those who caused her sister pain, including herself, so Ferdinand had told him to keep an eye on her, just in case. Now, as Pierre turns to Mia, he sees her breaking. Tears stream down her face as she cries out in pain, whispering apologies meant for her sister. Her voice trembles as if deciding this should be the day she dies. At the same time, Filia and Oswald continue their journey to Gertonia, both silently praying they are not yet too late. Back in Gertonia, a massive herd of monsters surrounds Mia, but she refuses to give in. Instead of letting them devour her, she uses every last drop of her magic, even more than she should. With each spell, her body grows weaker. She continues without hesitation. To her, this is a worthy sacrifice if it means saving her kingdom. Pierre watches in shock and refuses to let her fall alone. He quickly instructs the guards to protect the saint, just in time to shield her as she collapses to the ground, unconscious and drained. In her mind, Mia falls into a dark, cold, and endless pit where she floats weightlessly. She thinks this is finally the end, but suddenly she hears a voice calling out. It's her sister. The sound reaches her just enough for her to open her eyes briefly and see the sky growing brighter. Just in time, Filia arrives with Prince Oswald on horseback. Together, they quickly eliminate the remaining monsters surrounding the area. Before Mia completely fades away, she feels the familiar warmth of her sister's presence. Even in her weakened state, she knows Filia is there, trying to save her once again. Now that the monsters are weakened, Himari quickly instructs the knights to charge and finish the battle. To her surprise, familiar faces from Gertonia appear. Lena and Leonardo, who followed Filia and Oswald with Erza and Mammon's help, also arrive. Seeing Mia's fragile condition, Filia rushes to her side and immediately begins casting a healing spell. Mia's heartbeat is faint, and the damage seems beyond repair, but Filia refuses to give up. She continues to cast the spell again and again while her hands are trembling with fear of what might happen. Though Filia is having a hard time, Oswald holds her close, which encourages her further. With this, Filia tries even harder. After several desperate attempts, Mia finally parts her lips and lets out a soft sound. Mia finally wakes up, and Filia is overwhelmed with relief. Without saying a word, she embraces her sister tightly, grateful just to see her alive. Above them, the great purification circle now stretches across Gertonia's sky. Mia quietly shares how afraid she was of never seeing her sister again. But Filia, beyond being a saint, knows she also has a duty as Mia's sister. And even if it wasn't the wisest decision, she chose to save her no matter what. At that moment, Mia begins to reveal everything she's been through these past few days. She tells Filia how she discovered the truth about her sister's suffering, how she wanted to seek revenge on her behalf, but in the end, all she could feel was regret for not realizing everything sooner. Filia, hearing her sister's story, praises Mia for her strength and bravery. Unlike what Mia believes, Filia knows she is a true and deserving saint. These words break something in Mia, and she begins to sob. Not far behind, Erza and Mammon quietly watch the scene, simply happy that everything turned out well for them in the end. That same night at the castle, the king's furious voice echoes through the halls. News has reached him that Julius has escaped from the guards, and his rage boils over. Unbeknownst to everyone, Julius is already deep within the castle, making his way toward a secret chamber. There, hidden underneath the castle, lies the sealed soul of the archdemon Asmodeus. Slowly, Julius reaches for it, believing that once it's in his grasp, nothing will stop him. Refusing to accept defeat, Julius immediately puts on the ring the moment he reaches it. As soon as it slips onto his finger, a wicked voice echoes in his mind. Darkness pours out from the ring surrounding him, and in an instant, he is swallowed completely by its shadow. The next day, the sisters are still floating in happiness after their long-awaited reunion. While walking back to the castle, Filia and Oswald exchange thanks and gentle compliments for everything they've accomplished. Mia watches them and notices something. Her sister has changed. This is the first time Filia has been so warm towards someone, especially a man. Mia teases her lightly, but Filia brushes it off. Even so, Mia feels happy for her sister's newfound joy. But their joy quickly fades. As they enter the king's chamber, they are stunned to see that it is no longer His Majesty on the throne. Instead, it is Julius, now wearing the ring that once sealed Asmodeus. A twisted grin spreads across his face as he greets Filia in a dark, mocking tone, calling her his betrothed. As everyone approaches the castle gates, they immediately sense something is wrong. The grounds are eerily quiet, and not a single guard is in sight. Alarmed, they hurry inside. In the throne room, the scene awaiting them confirms their fears. Sitting on the throne is not the king, nor the first prince, but Prince Julius. The king and Prince Ferdinand lie slumped to the side, barely conscious. With weak breaths, Ferdinand warns Mia that Julius has fallen under the control of a dark force. Then, Julius speaks, But is not he who is talking. The archdemon Asmodeus, now inhabiting his body, gazes directly at Filia and calls her his one true love. Guards rush to carry the wounded royals to safety, while Filia and her companions prepare to confront the possessed prince. Asmodeus, calm and collected, praises Filia's beauty and soul. Without hesitation, she demands to know why he has taken over Julius's body. Asmodeus claims there is no grand reason. He simply wanted Filia to see him in a form she could recognize. Oswald, confused by what's unfolding, turns to Filia, who explains the demon's possession of the second prince. Erza adds that Julius, likely out of desperation, must have unleashed Asmodeus willingly, allowing the demon to take over his body in a bargain. Asmodeus quickly recognizes Erza as an exorcist and Mammon as one of his own kind, a demon who had turned away from them to serve the exorcists instead. Desiring Filia all to himself, Asmodeus decides to get rid of everything around her. Without warning, the castle floor floods with a black, oily liquid, from which shadowy demons begin to rise. These low-ranking creatures swarm the room, but the group, fully equipped for battle, swiftly cuts them down. Despite their efforts, the number of shadows multiplies rapidly and a wave of urgency hits Erza. Realizing the threat is growing beyond control, she calls out to Mammon. Responding to her call, Mammon shifts into his true form, a towering white feline. Together, they unleash a powerful exorcism technique that creates the form of a crow and destroys all of the demonic entities in a single sweep. Amid the chaos, Lena can't help but admire Mammon's majestic transformation even in such a dangerous moment. Despite their efforts, more shadow demons continue to rise from the black liquid covering the floor. Realizing the danger isn't over, everyone equips the anti-demon weapons Filia had prepared for them. One by one, they begin fighting back, working together to take down the endless wave of monsters. Mia watches in amazement as they battle against the demons. Then suddenly, Hildigard appears and joins the fight, quickly catching both Filia and Mia's attention. There's no time for a reunion, though. Asmodeus begins to cast a powerful spell, aiming to destroy the entire castle in one strike. Sensing the danger, Filia, Mia, and Hildigard quickly join forces to cast a holy shield that protects everyone inside. The castle crumbles around them, but thanks to the shield, everyone remains safe inside the glowing barrier. After the dust settles, the group realizes just how powerful Asmodeus truly is. He's the same archdemon who nearly destroyed the world 4 centuries ago, but now that he's using Prince Julius's body, his power is still growing and his revival isn't complete yet. That means they still have a chance. If they want to stop him for good, they must act now, before it's too late. Filia bravely confronts Asmodeus, but he only laughs and continues to toy with her. He extends a shadowy arm toward Mia, trying to capture her, but Mia quickly raises his shield and deflects the attack. Then, without warning, Asmodeus strikes again, this time capturing Hildigard and holding her hostage, offering to trade her for Filia. Though Hildigard wasn't his intended target, Asmodeus senses something unusual as he holds her. Through their connection, he glimpses into her memories. He sees Hildigard's harsh training of Filia, pushing her to become stronger. But more importantly, he uncovers a hidden truth, one Hildigard has kept buried for years. With a wicked smile, Asmodeus reveals the secret to everyone. Hildigard is actually Filia's mother. Filia freezes in disbelief as Asmodeus explains that Filia's known parents had taken her away from Hildigard, wanting to save their bloodline. Aside from that, Mia had known the truth all along yet kept it hidden. Hildigard urges Filia to leave her behind and escape from the archdemon. After all, she's the one who abandoned her. But as Filia recalls everything Hildigard has taught her, she realizes how deeply those teachings shaped who she is today. Rather than run away, Filia makes a firm decision. She steps forward and offers herself to Asmodeus in exchange for Hildigard. Erza protests Filia's decision, knowing that if Asmodeus gets his hands on her, it could mean the end for everyone. With no other choice, Erza decides to take matters into her own hands. She quickly signals Mammon to proceed with their plan. Just as Filia begins walking toward Asmodeus, Erza shouts for her to dodge. A number of attacks suddenly rain down on Asmodeus, but they don't injure him at all. However, the assault wasn't meant to harm him directly. Before he can react, his shadowy arm shatters, releasing Hildigard from his grip. Enraged by Erza's interference, Asmodeus lunges toward her with lightning speed, with the intent of eliminating her. Erza has no time to defend herself. In a flash, Asmodeus strikes, but it's not Erza who takes the hit. Filia throws herself in front of her, taking the full blow to protect her. Asmodeus stares in surprise at the wounded Filia. Rather than kill her, he makes a decision. He will take her soul elsewhere. With a single motion, he seizes Filia and vanishes into thin air, leaving everyone in shock. The rest of the group cries out in sorrow and rage at what just happened. As an exorcist, Erza has the ability to locate Filia's presence, but she refuses to help, fearing the danger it could bring to everyone else. As the group begins to pressure her for answers, Erza finally reveals the truth. Asmodeus' true form resides in Limbo, the space between the human world and the demon realm. That's also where he plans to use Filia's soul to resurrect the Archsaint Fianna. Meanwhile, deep within his castle in Limbo, Asmodeus arrives carrying Filia's weakened body. She trembles and pretends to be on the brink of death, whispering that she can't hold on much longer. Moved by sympathy for the one he loves, Asmodeus reaches for her hand. His arm swells as he cries out in pain. It was a trap. Filia heals herself in an instant and rises to her feet completely unharmed. As it turns out, Filia was able to study the demon's body by observing Mammon. Through this, she discovered that demons possess not just blood, but flowing magic within their bodies. When she infused her own magic into that flow, it disrupted the balance, causing intense internal damage due to the clash. Even as Asmodeus tries to speak with Filia, declaring his eternal love for her, she remains unmoved. Without hesitation, she casts a powerful spell in an attempt to destroy him completely. However, Asmodeus proves to be incredibly fast and manages to flee into one of the castle's sealed chambers before the magic can hit him. Back in Gertonia, the group is still struggling to find a way to reach Filia. Urza knows how to enter limbo but refuses to involve royalty or saints in demonic matters. Then, Mammon reveals that as a demon, he alone has the power to teleport between realms. But there's a limit, since he must bring both Urza and Filia back safely. He can now only take one additional person with them. Urza immediately voices her protest at Mammon's announcement, worried about the risks. Still, she understands the deep concern the others have for Filia. Without hesitation, Oswald, Leonard, Mia, Himari, and Lena all speak at once, each passionately giving their reasons why they should be the ones to go with Mammon into limbo. But their debate is suddenly interrupted by a familiar voice, Filia. Her voice echoes from Lena's bracelet, the one Filia gave her. Turns out, she had enchanted it to allow them to communicate when needed. She reassures them that she's safe, but she also lets them know that this could be the last time they hear from her. She explains that she must face Asmodeus alone before he regains his full power. Filia speaks to each of them one by one. To her sister, she expresses a quiet wish to return to Parnacorda. Turning to Hildigard, she says she's grateful for finally learning the truth and thanks her for all the lessons that shaped her. Lastly, she speaks to Prince Oswald, who, with unwavering determination, still promises to rescue her no matter what it takes. He gently reminds her of his promise, that once everything is over, they'll go out and eat together. But before Filia can respond, a magic connection fades into silence. After the conversation with Filia abruptly ends, Oswald becomes more determined to go with Urza and rescue her. Despite Urza's firm refusal, even toward royalty, Oswald stands his ground, declaring that Filia is the most important person in his life. He insists that he's ready to risk everything, even his own life, just to ensure her safety. His sincerity stirs the others. Mia, moved by Oswald's words, steps forward and urges Ezra to let him go. Though she herself wants to be the one to accompany them, she willingly gives up her place for Oswald's sake. Leonard, Himari, and Lena, who have been quietly listening, also offer their full support. Seeing that everyone has come to the same decision, Urza has no choice but to comply. With heavy reluctance, she agrees to take Oswald with her and Mammon, even if there's no guarantee they'll make it back alive. Soon, Mammon opens the portal to Limbo, and before they leave, Hildigard turns to Oswald and asks him to take care of her daughter. Oswald nods with confidence, promising to bring Filia back safely. He says all of this with a smile on his face, and in that moment, Mia finally understands why it was Oswald, of all people, who melted the ice around Filia's heart. Suddenly, dark liquid-like patches begin forming on the ground and shadowy figures start rising once more. Before the situation can escalate, Urza, Mammon, and Oswald leap into the portal, leaving Gertonia behind. Meanwhile, in Limbo, Filia walks toward Asmodeus. As she moves forward, she pauses briefly upon seeing Prince Julius lying unconscious on the floor. It's clear now that Asmodeus has fully taken on his true form, no longer hiding within Julius' body. Asmodeus' joy is impossible to hide. After 4 long centuries, he finally stands before Filia, or rather, the reincarnated soul of Fianna. Now, he wishes for nothing more than to spend eternity with her. Beside him lies what looks like Fianna's body, beautiful but lifeless. Asmodeus proudly reveals it took 200 years and the finest doll makers to create the perfect vessel for her soul. He explains the ritual. Once Filia's soul is transferred into the vessel, her memories as Fianna will fully return, and they can finally be together. Though he hopes she would submit willingly, he quickly realizes she won't, so he needs to use his force. To bend her will, Asmodeus uses his shadowy arm to seize the unconscious Julius, who lies behind Filia. Asmodeus demands that she choose. He is also curious if Filia will save the life of his former fiancé. Much to his surprise, Filia doesn't hesitate. Despite everything, Julius' abuse of power, his betrayal, and the misery he brought her, she still chooses to save him. Without hesitation, Filia surrenders herself to Asmodeus, but she pleads for him to release Julius first. However, the archdemon refuses, insisting he must secure Filia before letting go of him. He fears being caught off guard by her magic again and won't take any chances. Left with no other choice, Filia complies. As Asmodeus begins to rejoice, his shadows coil around her, preparing to claim her soul. But just as his grip tightens, a flash cuts through. Someone descends from above, slicing the shadows that coil Filia. It's Oswald. In that instant, Filia's heart steadies. She knew deep down that Oswald would come for her. She always had faith in him, and he just proved her right. Prince Oswald arrives just in time to save Filia from Asmodeus. The demon is angry at the sudden interruption, but Oswald doesn't back down. He stands in front of Filia, promising to protect her no matter what. Filia feels relieved and thanks him. Before they can say anything more, Asmodeus reminds them that he's not defeated yet. Suddenly, Mammon and Urza arrive to help. All of them work together and attack Asmodeus at the same time. They give it their best shot, but it's like their attacks had no effect. He then strikes back with great force, sending Oswald and Erza flying through the air. They hit the ground hard, and Filia runs to check on Oswald, who is hurt but still conscious. At that moment, a strange wind with a bluish-gray color begins to swirl around Asmodeus. He stops and looks happy. It's a power he hasn't felt in hundreds of years. It is all possible because of Julius, who is now lying on the ground unconscious and unaware of everything that is happening around him. Sensing the overwhelming threat, Filia casts a protective spell to shield them from Asmodeus' oncoming attack, but the power surging from him is far greater than anything they encountered on the surface, proof that Asmodeus is now fully revived. They cannot let him reach the surface now. In this critical moment, Erza realizes she might have to sacrifice herself to stop him. Then a thought strikes Filia. If Asmodeus destroys everything here, he might also damage the Fianna doll he created. But it becomes clear that he no longer cares. He has seen enough to know that Filia is nothing like Fianna. Everything about them differs. Her body now means nothing to him. Without hesitation, Asmodeus unleashes a catastrophic spell. In one devastating blow, everything around them crumbles. Filia tries to raise a holy barrier, but it's too late. The force sweeps through them. One by one, her allies collapse to the ground, unconscious. Filia remains standing, and her legs start trembling as the truth sinks in. She is the only one left. Asmodeus looks down at her, his voice cold and cruel, declaring that she is just human after all. Asmodeus approaches Filia, who tries to convince herself not to give up. She remembers Oswald's promise and reaches out for his hand, but Asmodeus steps on it, forcing a cry of pain from her lips. Seeing how deeply Filia cares for Oswald, he threatens to tear him to pieces, along with everyone else Filia holds dear. When Filia begs him to spare them, Asmodeus responds with a brutal kick to her stomach. As she lies there, her mind drifts toward the people who matter most to her. Just when her hope begins to fade, a faint voice calls out, an answer to her silent plea. In her unconscious state, Filia finds herself face to face with Fianna, the savior of their kingdom. Fianna apologizes for the flaws in the original seal and entrusts Filia with her power. Back in the limbo, Fianna's spirit rises from the ground. Asmodeus greets her with twisted delight, but she responds only with sharp insults. Then, lifting her hand, she casts a divine spell that heals everyone lying there. When Oswald regains consciousness, he's stunned to see Filia in her new form. She lands gracefully and vows to defeat Asmodeus. Desperate to expel Fianna's spirit from Filia, Asmodeus prepares a catastrophic spell. But before he can unleash it, Filia casts her own. Confident it will fail like before, Asmodeus mocks her, until the light begins piercing through his body, forming glowing holes. He realizes too late that Filia's spell is faster and more powerful. Filia bites her fingertip, and blood begins to flow. When a drop hits the ground, a magical circle forms, glowing with energy. From its center emerges a golden sword, the very same weapon that sealed Asmodeus away 400 years ago. He stares at it, recognizing his fate. Filia grasps the sword and chants a binding spell, ensuring his spirit will not return so easily. She vows to cut him down completely. As she approaches, Asmodeus begins to plead, claiming he did everything out of love and begging Fianna to spare him. But the one standing before him is not Fianna. Filia, carrying Fianna's power, cannot forgive such destruction. She raises the sword. In an instant, Asmodeus glows with golden light and begins to fade. As silence returns to the battlefield, Fianna's voice echoes one last time, offering Filia her deepest thanks. Right after everything settles, Filia suddenly collapses. Fortunately, Oswald catches her in time and she regains consciousness. Grateful, Filia thanks him for protecting her, and they share a heartfelt exchange, appreciating each other. Oswald gathers the courage to confess his feelings, but before he can finish, Erza interrupts. Though Oswald protests, Erza points out that confessing on a gloomy battlefield is far from ideal. They should at least choose a better place. Suddenly, Julius regains consciousness, unaware of the danger that just passed. As his eyes land on Filia, he hurls insults at her, blaming her for the misfortune he endured. He attempts to flaunt his new powers, but notices his ring is missing. That's when Mammon taps him on the shoulder and calmly advises him to give up. Julius responds with more cruel words, provoking Mammon. In a flash, Mammon transforms into his large cat form. Erza steps forward and orders Mammon to transport Julius to the Gertonia prison without delay. Soon enough, the portal to Gertonia opens and Oswald carries Filia in his arms as they all leap through it. In no time, they return safely to Gertonia. Filia immediately rushes to greet and check on her sister, but her eyes wander. She notices that her teacher is no longer there. To restore the kingdom, the Gertonian and Parnacourtan guards work together. Prince Ferdinand and the king personally thank Filia and Oswald for their courage. Peace and harmony return to both kingdoms, now united under the saintship of Filia and Mia. One day, Filia visits Hildigard at her home. They sit together for tea, finally having the conversation Hildigard has long avoided. She apologizes for hiding the truth, but Filia already knows everything. Mia has told her the full story. Despite the secrets, Filia still believes Hildigard has taught her so much, not just about sainthood, but about life itself. Though Hildigard never had the chance to be her mother, Filia has felt that she has been one all along. Filia values everything she gave, her power, her body, even her life. And in that moment, she calls Hildigard mother for the first time. Hildigard falls silent, unsure if she deserves such a title, but Filia gently presses for more, wanting to learn about her true father. Though it's a simple question, it catches Hildigard off guard. She finally shares that Filia's father was a healer, a gifted one who could mend the greatest wounds. But he died during an epidemic, and even in his final moments, his thoughts were only of their daughter. Filia realizes she inherited her gift of healing from her father, but she still wants to know more, how her parents met, and how they eventually fell in love and got married. Hildigard laughs at the question, noting how much Filia is similar to Mia, but eventually gives in. Over warm tea, she begins to share the story. That evening, Leonard prepares dinner for Filia, Mia, and Hildigard. As they gather at the table, they're surprised by the sheer amount of food, almost like a feast. Even Lena remarks that it might be too much, but Himari explains that Filia loves to eat. Mia is caught off guard by the revelation, so Filia shyly admits that it's a habit she picked up in Gertonia. Leonard's cooking is simply too good to resist. Hildigard quietly watches the scene and a smile forms on her face. She had spent so long worrying about Filia's well-being in Parnacorda, but seeing her daughter now surrounded by great companions, Hildigard realizes there was never a reason to worry. The next morning, Filia prepares to leave Gertonia and go back to Parnacorda. While in the carriage, Oswald brings up the situation of her parents and Mia, but Filia no longer wishes to return. She believes Gertonia doesn't need her anymore. Hildigard and Mia are more than capable of carrying the duties of a saint. After bidding their farewells, Filia and Oswald depart. From a distance, Erza and Mammon watch them go. Mammon urges Erza to say her goodbyes, but she is confident that their paths will cross again someday. The people of Gertonia keep pestering Prince Ferdinand to bring back Filia as their saint, but even Mia knows she has no right to make such a request. It would be shameless, especially when it is their responsibility to restore the kingdom's prosperity. That burden now falls on Prince Ferdinand. His brother's decision to send Filia away to another kingdom still haunts him, and he carries guilt for doing nothing to stop it. Ferdinand reflects on his failures. He never truly stepped up as the first prince, at least not until Mia had inspired him. But Mia reminds him that they shouldn't dwell on the past. What matters now is that he's acknowledged his mistakes and is striving to lead Gertonia toward a better future. Their efforts are already bearing fruit, and there's no use clinging to regrets. Hearing her words, Ferdinand's lips curve into a smile. Mia's words give him courage. Meanwhile, in Parnacorda, Prince Richard visits his beloved's grave when Filia approaches, also carrying flowers for Elizabeth, the former saint. She apologizes for the decision she made, but Richard assures her that he understands. She only wanted to protect those she loved, and that is something he deeply respects. He also understands Oswald's actions, knowing it's the kind of choice he would have made for Elizabeth too. However, the prince gives her a warning. If a similar situation arises in the future, he will try to stop her again. As the Prince of Parnacorda, it is his duty to protect the saint, and the kingdom means everything to him. He urges Filia to value the same, and Filia accepts his words wholeheartedly, not just as a saint, but as someone who genuinely cherishes the kingdom. A month passes, and the long-awaited Saints' Summit begins, gathering all saints in one place. Mia and Hildigard arrive to see Filia, and they reunite with excitement. But the attention quickly shifts when a voice rises above the crowd. Emily of Bolmern steps forward, clearly aiming to steal the spotlight. Suddenly, a loud voice calls out to Filia. It's Grace, who rushes toward Filia and embraces her, overwhelmed with joy. Watching the scene unfold, Mia starts to feel a tinge of envy. She takes Filia by the arm and introduces herself as her sister. Not backing down, Grace grabs Filia's other arm and declares herself as her one and only student, just like a sister. The playful fight draws smiles from Hildigard, who watches quietly. Mia then mentions a gift she brought for Filia. The next day, Filia wears a blue dress, Mia's gift from the day before. Lena shrieks upon seeing her and playfully teases her about Prince Oswald, making Filia suddenly self-conscious. Leonard chuckles at her reaction, but Filia tells him to stop. Still, he finds it rare and endearing to see Filia act her age. After some time, Filia steps outside, where Prince Oswald is already waiting. He too is dressed more formally than usual. The moment he sees her, he offers a warm compliment. Together, they head to a beautiful spot, a quiet place prepared for tea. While they sit at the table, Oswald recalls the day Filia first arrived in their kingdom. Back then, he vowed to make her love their country, and now she does. She has made friends, cherished memories, and found reasons to protect it with all her heart. Hearing this, Oswald expresses his joy, confessing that he too loves the kingdom, its people, and most of all, Filia. His confession catches Filia off guard, and tears quietly begin to stream down her face. Oswald worries he may have upset her, but she assures him they are tears of happiness. Gently, Oswald shares the strange things she does that make him fall for her. Then, for the first time, Filia's lips form a smile. In that moment, she understands what it means to love, how it brings joy unlike any other. And so the perfect saint, once tossed aside by her fiancé, finds herself in a new kingdom, where she has discovered her own happiness.